Twitter, it's at Jay Cameron Show. Yeah, driving about town. Hey, you might even be able to roll down the windows. It's nice out. And if you are watching on YouTube TV, Warchant TV, we really appreciate you. Of course, all of you. Tommy, another weird day, man, another weird week as we get things started. We've got, I know you and I and many others who are listening to this show are in the midst of documenting Florida State's 1-5 campaign. A lot of fun that is. Oh, while the state of Florida just takes ass kicking after ass kicking with hurricane after hurricane. Good times. Not distracted at all. We're all good. Everybody's all right.
You know, we both have a lot of connections to different parts of the state, but what we call the Tampa Bay area our hometown. It's where I grew up, went to school. It's where you grew up, went to school in high school. And so there's just a laundry list of people that we're checking in on and making sure that they're okay. You know, are they hitting the roads today? Are they hitting the roads tomorrow? Are they going at all or trying to ride it out? It does seem like if you live in Pinellas or Hillsborough or Bradenton, Sarasota, you may want to ride the hell out and get going. But I don't know what your family's plans are. But mine are gone today. They're bouncing.
Well, mine's situation's a little complicated. My grandmother, and this is not how we're going to do this. We're going to get into the sports here in a second. But my grandmother lived in Treasure Island. I say lived. Her house was ruined. Just last week, 2 weeks ago by Helene. And they're still trying to get stuff out of that. And she's 98 years old and has lived there for 60 years. And so this has been a nightmare. And in the midst of this, of course, this storm is coming in. And now there's great uncertainty about what everybody's going to do. I have a brother that lives down there, obviously my mother and my stepdad, and now my grandmother is in a makeshift situation. So this is less than ideal. It's a long-winded way of saying who knows what this week holds. We'll try to figure out some things. I may end up having to go out of town and help some folks, but we will get it figured out. That is not what I meant to start the show. Our thoughts are with you guys. That's really kind of where I'm at. Let's just put it that way. This was not about burdening anybody else about my situation or Tom's situation, but there are a ton of listeners from all over this state and a wide swath that may be greatly affected by what is, as of moments ago, a Category 5 hurricane. So, yeah, great. Good. Yeah, great.
Yeah, Category 5 as it's brushing the Yucatan. And you're right. I mean, this is life. This is the life part of stuff. You know, it's heading due east, too. It's just so strange. It's such a weird thing. But to everybody who's down at home, where we come from, the 727, the 813, and the extended areas, Fort Myers is even, potentially in the crosshairs here. Mm-hmm. Please stay as safe as you possibly can. If you can get out in an area that you need to evacuate, leave, go. We're already seeing some clips of 75, some of the toll roads, because the tolls have been lifted throughout the state as of 10:30 this morning. There's a lot of traffic, so plan ahead for that, please. And if you need to go, please go.
Wild weekend in the world of college football, some incredible baseball games, and then there's the matter of our football game against Clemson. And you can do this one of two ways today when you come in here. You can talk about the things that you saw from your new starting quarterback, Brock Glenn, that gave you a reason to be encouraged and that you knew this was going to be a loss, so you're not going to fake outrage by a game that ended up, at least from a score standpoint, being much closer than I would have ever guessed. It probably didn't deserve to be if you look at all the measurements, yards per play and everything else. But that said, it was. You ended up keeping it competitive. You didn't get humiliated by a Clemson team that is capable of doing just that to this team especially. And so you're a little bit buoyed. I think most realists did not, if they went to this game, talked to a lot of nice people that either showed up at Hotel Indigo or came by the limited time that I was at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Friday for the happy hour before going out of town to watch my son play football against Cairo. A lot of really nice people and diehard Noles, and you talk about loyal rolling into town to see that in a year where the product is substandard times 10 and the stadium's under construction and the weather was going to be iffy for that game. You had kind of thoughts that it might be raining for that game. Just all kinds of things gave you a reason not to show up. And so I say kudos to everybody that did and all the people we got to meet, Tom. A lot of great people. I really did have a good time at that Hotel Indigo get-together, having a couple cold ones with folks from all over the state and all over the surrounding regions. That was nice. So, again, a hearty hello to all of you. But most of those people, the reason I bring that up, did not suspect that Florida State was going to pull off the upset. They wanted to see something that they could be encouraged about, something that they could look to moving forward. And I think they saw that. In my opinion, they saw that. I thought Brock Glenn was that. I thought in the face of having no run game to speak of, you have the wild inconsistencies of this receiving core, either not getting open or not catching the ball when they do get open. You have an offensive line that isn't the pits of the world when it comes to pass blocking, but can't run block to save their life. No difference makers there in the backfield that allowed you to take some pressure off this kid. He's now been put in a lot of tough situations. I thought this is the best that he's come out in those situations without question. So I can lead the show by saying that I think you might have something in Brock Glenn, who showed poise, who showed toughness, who stood tall in the pocket, who I thought, certainly showed a level of elusiveness that gives you a fighting chance when inevitably you're going to be under pressure, especially because there's no balance to this offense. I feel like that's a kid, much like the fan base, that has been betrayed by this coaching staff. There are enough coaching problems on this staff to really spend 3 hours today talking about how it is impossible to imagine a situation that is any worse than this when it comes to the run game. And how did we arrive here? I would think that there's no question now you have to fire Alex Atkins. I would fire him yesterday. And I think there are others that need to be fired. We're at that place where you start rightfully calling for people's jobs because of the ineptitude that you witness game in and game out, and understand that there's quite the road to hoe, but radical changes are going to have to be made. You can't have an offense that is this inept in any facet of the game. You can have areas of weakness that we document year in and year out. Great teams have those too. I'm sure Alabama fans today are wondering how the hell Vanderbilt scored over 40 points against that defense. I mean, there are discussions that go on around the country today when we're all either celebrating too much or overreacting in the negative and everything in between. That's what Mondays are for. And then there are nuances within those discussions. There's not much nuance for Florida State fans in our discussion for the purposes of the Jeff Cameron Show. They're going to have to make changes. Mike Norvell is going to have to fire some people. Mike himself is fairly lucky to have the contract that he does, or else he would probably be on the chopping block, because this is ridiculous. It is hard to watch. It is sickening. It is the kind of thing that I never thought I'd see. I mean, when you're talking about whether it is traditional numbers, advanced numbers, if you're combining the two, no matter how you add it up, it equals complete and utter incompetence when it comes to trying to stimulate some sort of a run game. And Tom, and we haven't even switched gears to get to the defense yet, where other people have to be fired. But I mean, this is not something the most pessimistic amongst us could have thought possible coming into the season.
Yeah, I think you're right to point to Brock being an extension of the fan base, because there's a guy who's fighting through it, who's trying to fight past it, and there's hurdles galore in front of him, and he's doing his best to clear every single one of them. And the fan base was like that in my mind as well on Saturday, because when the game got to be 17-0, all right, and now it's 17-0, and we hit the play to Landon Thomas. And that's a play. It's long developing. There's actually time for Brock to sit back there and consider and ponder the shot and turn down the shot and then hit Landon Thomas, who leaks out, and he has an explosive play. The crowd goes nuts in that moment at 17-0 down, and you make one splash play. And that made me so proud as a Nole, and that made me so sad as a Nole, all at the same time. Because that means that everybody who bothered to go to the game on Saturday night was in it and invested, and they were looking for silver linings. They knew the right things. They weren't going in there looking for an upset or a 10-point win. They were looking for silver linings. And the moment that they got one in a 17-0 game, they erupt. And then they erupt again for the throw and the touchdown to Amari Williams. And they continue to stay engaged in the game, even though we're being outclassed by Clemson. It again made me so proud of those fans for fighting through, and then also so sad for them. Because to be reduced to that, to have to cheer for those silver linings against your rival the year after you beat them and you took the ACC away from them, for them to be able to understand it. And your point, at the happy hour on Friday or Hotel Indigo on Saturday, people who attended this, came to this town this weekend and attended the game, they had their expectations adjusted to such a place where they were saying, essentially, give me something. Just give me something I can believe in for the future. Man, the fact that we're here doing that 1 year after being 13-0 and winning the ACC championship is absurd. And I feel so bad for those fans, but I'm also just so proud of them because they did the right thing. They showed up and they cheered their guts out, even though there wasn't consistency in terms of heart put on display on Saturday night. And that's just so frustrating, man.
It is. It's very frustrating. And as we've documented talking on this show, I just said there's so much blame to go around, but it is comical to hear anybody defend right now at this point, really any of these coaches. I mean, Polk County, Noel, you're not watching. That offensive line is the laughingstock of college football. Get the hell out of here with that nonsense. And he's recruited virtually nobody. You are insane. And yeah, we've ripped the defense, and I've ripped Fuller, and I've ripped Mike Norvell. So it's not one man that's responsible for this catastrophe. It's a joke right now. And it's awfully hard to watch. It's you do feel a sense of, and I think that most of the time, if there's ever a sort of a sense of entitlement that fans have, I'm pretty in tune to that. A lot of times I'll look at it and I'll say, we need to calm down there. They have done this, or that. Or big picture, there's more of this than you're letting on in your argument or whatever it might be. But when you add it all up, Tom, to get to this place is really, it's disconcerting. It's disappointing because you're right. You feel bad for the fans who feel a sense of betrayal right now. Most of the time I'm like, I don't know. I'm somewhere in the middle a lot of times. I'm not as knee jerk as I certainly used to be, but they're 1-5, Tom. We've seen the evidence. The evidence is overwhelming at this point. They're not a good football team, and they don't do a lot of things well. They don't put these kids in the best possible position to succeed repeatedly. I mean, we talk about the easiest way to define good coaching and bad coaching is, are you kids, whatever talents they may have, are they being put in a position to succeed and utilize those talents? And so often we see guys that are simply not. And ultimately, there are moments where you want to blame, the player who doesn't execute a well drawn up play. But a lot of times what I'm seeing and what you're seeing is really kind of a dearth of coaching. And it is when you're still talking about whether it be the offensive line, whether it be the secondary, whether it be the linebackers, any one facet of this team, when you're still talking about the lack of communication and the kinds of problems that persist, what was it, 10 penalties? I mean, this is week in and week out where you have zero margin for error because of your deficiencies, because you've screwed up in development or a lack thereof. And yet these things continue to happen week in and week out and act as negatives. Even when you make a play, you just shoot yourself in the foot time. And again, you're also not good enough in so many areas.
Over lunch, just about an hour ago, I sat down and I pulled up the condensed game to watch it again. And you're seeing the things that you're talking about. Offensive linemen who have been here for 5 years, checking with each other after a play's over. Hey, were you supposed to, hey, why did we, those types of conversations between guys who have been playing together on the same offensive line for several years, saying, where was I supposed to be there? I mean, guys, that's the bare minimum. How the hell do you not know where to be? You've been at this university longer than Van Wilder was at his university. Like, how do you not know within this offense? It's been the same offense since COVID. It's been the same offense. You don't know where to be on a simple outside zone? Hey, should I pass that? God, dog it. You see it with the defense. They call some zones on third down. I know we were texting back and forth about a certain player. You were texting on Saturday. Man, that player in a lot of those instances is in a zone that is entirely predictable for the offense to read through.
Yes, without question.
And it's not necessarily his fault. I saw a comment earlier. It seems like our zone has 8 people or 9 people out there at any given moment. And we've documented the thoughts on man versus zone many times defensively. I see a play for a touchdown where a safety gives you minimal effort to tackle a receiver over the middle of the field, doesn't extend his arms, he doesn't even try to end the receiver. If you're going to go shoulder only, you get 15. You know what I mean? Like that's the reason you go shoulder only. Minimal effort knocks down a corner for a touchdown. All of these moments where you're seeing guys either casually getting through the play rather than trying to take it to an opponent for a play, or after the play is over and it fails again, guys looking at each other and wondering, what were we supposed to do there? And a lot of times it's veterans too. It's just ridiculous. And it makes me sick because, we wear two hats. So when the game's over, we get to analyzing, and it almost removes the emotion from it for a little bit because you're trying to find the hows and the whys, and you're listening to coach. So we're going through our job. It's almost like a laboratory checklist. Back in the day, you had a lab checklist over at Florida State. That's what we do. And it removes the emotion quicker than it's removed for a lot of fans. But it's swinging back the other way, man, because I am so mad for this fan base. They've done all the right things. They've invested in the right places. The administration has poured more money into it. The fans have poured more money into boosters, memberships, and the NIL. And this is what you get with the most resources Florida State has ever had in a calendar year as a football program is this garbage. You're 130th in any number of offensive categories. Just insane.
Yeah, and it's not good radio, and it's certainly not good podcasting, and it's not good whatever multimedia that you're involved in, to throw your hands in the air, to remain silent, for you don't know where to start, which part of the checklist you want to go down first, because like you, Tom, I take notes during the game, and especially if there are repeated grievances, there are things that are happening repeatedly and not being corrected. I'm not talking about physical mistakes. I'll vent that on Twitter for the drops. I'm talking about coaching mistakes. Yep. And players being out of position where from game to game it carries over, which suggests to me that it's not being taught properly, conveyed properly. Certainly it's not sinking in. So when you see those kinds of things, you have no choice but to lay that at the feet of Adam Fuller, or lay that at the feet, whoever you're complaining about at that particular time. There's enough to go around. I'm very, very conscious of the fact that if you go in on, let's say, Ron Dugans, and you're mad at Ron, you have to try to find the balance with the areas in which things did get better under him. While also pointing out that this is unacceptable. And the same goes for Fuller, and the same goes for whomever, Mike Norvell for that matter, if you want to go big picture. Everything, by the way, it's a given that everything under the umbrella of Florida State football falls at the feet of Mike Norvell. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about Atkins, Fuller, it doesn't matter if we're talking about Randy Shannon, it doesn't matter if you're talking about Odell, it doesn't matter if you're talking about Papuchis, it doesn't matter if you're talking about Chris Thompson, any of them, it all ultimately falls at the feet of the head coach and Mike Norvell. Everybody gets that. Everybody understands that he's the head coach, he's paid the most, he's the one who put the staff together, he's the one who ultimately has to act as the final say on a yes or a no for a transfer, yes or a no on a scholarship offer for a prep kid, any of it, it all falls at his feet. I get it. So this mess does begin and end ultimately, if you're not having a nuanced discussion, with Mike Norvell. It does. And I get that wholeheartedly. And that, too, is very frustrating because it's certainly not the kind of conversation that we thought we would be having fresh off a 13-1 season. You did not believe that that was possible. You thought there might be, obviously, some transgression. You might thought, well, they won't sustain that. They just lost 10 NFL players. They just lost a large contingent of what made this thing really go a year ago. And so you knew that it was possible you'd have to take a step back. But nobody within reason thought you would go from 13-1 to now 1-5 with more losses coming. I mean, we know that. And you didn't think, and I'm going to continue to repeat this, that you'd be in the midst of trying to vet an existential football crisis, program crisis going through the rest of this season and into the offseason, which is exactly what you're doing now. Now, you might find little kernels, little nuggets, little moments that give you hope. And I do think Saturday night there were some of those. And we all know, and we'll talk about it next, that lies with the youth. That clearly lies with the younger players that we saw making plays on Saturday night. And that is, obviously, to some degree, buoying. I mean, that does help maybe ease the pain of what's going to be a losing season, a non-bowl season, certainly an uncompetitive season when it comes to our status within the ACC and most definitely the top 25 in the nation's elite programs. But you are looking for some measure of hope. I thought Brock Glenn and some of the other young guys certainly provided that for you on Saturday night. I'll discuss that aspect of it too when we come back. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Whidden Glass has been taking care of business since 1945. When you call Whidden Glass, you're dealing with experienced, reliable professionals who offer only the best. Like Whidden's top-of-the-line bath enclosures that provide style and luxury at an affordable price. Eye-catching storefronts are a specialty at Whidden Glass. We'll help you design it and install it. Whidden Glass, the first name in glass replacement. Call 222-5781.
This is Jay of Paul's Termite and Pest Control. There are many companies out there selling pest treatment programs at prices which seem too good to be true. Like most things, you get what you pay for. Let's separate the fact from the fiction. Fiction. The price these companies offer includes all visits needed to keep a home pest-free. Fact. Their prices only include regular visits for exterior treatments. If you encounter pests inside your home, these companies will charge you for additional visits. Is that really pest prevention? At Paul's Termite and Pest Control, we always apply exterior treatments, but our plan includes a significant difference. Whenever you encounter an interior problem, Paul's technicians are there, usually the same day you call, and there is no extra charge. With ProShield, you'll never pay extra for providing the service we promised. Pest prevention for your home, and we'll be there as many times as needed to honor our commitment with no extra charge. Paul's Termite and Pest Control is a local company that proudly served the Tallahassee area for over 50 years.
For the elimination of termites and any other pests,
call Paul's. We'll get them all.
And we make lawns greener, too.
Pinch A Penny Pools has the largest selection of premium hot springs hot tubs in the city. You might even call it Tallahassee's Hot Tub Hub. 12,000 square feet of hot tubs, with over 50 of them on site. Over 20,000 gallons of tub capacity to choose from. That's 4,620,000 cubic inches of hot tubs. But I digress. So why should you own a hot tub from Pinch A Penny Pools and Spas, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you. Number one, health benefits, of course. The healing powers of soaking in a hot bubbling pool of water go back centuries. Google it. Number two, Pinch A Penny has hot tubs with technology called Freshwater IQ. It gives you real-time chemical readings and tells you exactly what to add to keep the water at peak perfection, with automated analysis to help you control the chlorine and pH. It's hot tubs for dummies. Sign me up. Number three, they have the best prices, of course. Plus, you get a free accessory and no interest financing. Easy peasy. But if you don't want to take my word for it, check them out yourself. Pinch A Penny Pools and Spas. Locally owned, locally operated, and the easiest way to find relaxation at home.
It's roofing and construction services. T-Bar-Construction.com. We conquer all peaks. We fix those dark leaks. Call 850-766-134. T-Bar Enterprises. Roofing and construction services. T-Bar. T-Bar-Construction.com.
CCC 1331204.
Every journey starts with a first step, a daring step. But what they don't say about first steps is that you have to keep going, taking step after step, and eventually you take a big leap, accomplishing more than you ever thought possible. After 57 years, Tallahassee Community College is soaring even higher, and we're now officially Tallahassee State College. We invite you to take a step and visit Tallahassee State College. Learn more at tsc.fl.edu.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Yeah, so I guess I'll ask you, Tom. We didn't talk after the game. I know you and Gene do the post-game show. I'm kind of curious to hear how the fans reacted to yet another loss. Just wondering, was this a little bit more to the positive side because of how daunting this game was shaping up to be, given the evidence of the previous games, and plus the spark that I think Brock gave this team, and also, whether it be Landon or plenty of young guys that maybe you kind of got excited about a little bit over the course of this game. I thought it was nice that you were able to kind of work Hakeem into the offense again. That's good. We're starting to see. I think those two might be on the same page. Could have been better. Could have been better, but I'm a bit anxious to see it. You have no running game, which means the quarterback and everybody else is going to be close to dead in the water before it ever starts, and the offensive line's not good, and the receivers drop most things that you'd put on them. But I thought the first thing that stood out was how much more command of the offense he had, and also that he stands tall. He does not shrink in the moment, and that level of confidence, I think, certainly will be picked up on by the other offensive players. So you have something, I guess, to work with. So was that a positive mood in the postgame, given the loss, or was it still, sort of a exacerbated, we're just done?
I think a lot of it was now Brock played well, but let me talk about what I want to talk about. Like that was most of the energy that was brought here, and what I'm finding, and it makes me laugh, and not in a chiding way. Like it just, we all are going through this in our own way as Nole fans, and there are certain callers that I know every week that have certain coaches in their crosshairs about who they want replaced. So one caller is about the offensive line coach, one caller is going to be about the defensive coordinator, and then you get into those little shouting matches, constructive as it might be at times, for who is most to blame for the problem that we're in, who's the real fraud, who's the, what's the part of the team, what's the phase of the game that we should pay the most attention to, because this is the one that is failing the most. And it reminds me so much of an adult version of the undergraduate argument that happened in the student section when I was a freshman, sophomore, and junior about, do we go with Drew Weatherford or do we go with X? One of them will save us. And one half of the student fan base swore up and down it would be Drew. The other half said it was Xavier Lee. And then later in the equation, Devontae Richardson came out of nowhere, and there was a faction. It was almost like the Green Party in the two-party system. We were like, well, you got to give Devo a chance. And the answer is none of the above. None of these guys are the particular answer that we're looking for in the moment. Wasn't the case then in the undergrad time. And right now, nobody is succeeding. Like, I get we played good red zone defense, situational defense. Clemson went 4 of 6 in the red zone, 1 touchdown in 6 possessions. That's a good thing. The bad thing is they averaged 7 yards of play. There was never any pressure on them because they were never fearing that they were going to lose the football game, and they racked up 500 yards of offense to our 250. So 500 yards of offense, SMU put up a ton the week before. Cal put up 400 plus the week before. I mean, it's hard to find solace except in your outstanding punter and then your quarterback, who was, I thought, on time with the ball. He was often on time with the ball Saturday.
Yeah, a couple of things about that red zone defense. First of all, that tends to be an up and down year-to-year sort of thing. I'm saying there's a little bit more luck element to red zone defense than maybe we think. It's like, some years will be plus 18 in turnover differential, and you just had really good fumble luck. It just kind of worked out. There's an element of that to red zone as well. Also, and the reason I say that is everybody should play better on a condensed field. You don't have as much space to cover, so therefore, the end zone acts as an extra defender. The back of the end zone acts as an extra defender. Everybody knows this about football, but for those wondering my point, you kind of get bailed out a little bit there, because a much greater indicator of who you are is when they can call anything. Do you make stops? And look at what they averaged from 20 to 20. They did anything they wanted. They kind of did anything they wanted, which is much more emblematic of who you are on defense, is that you don't really do anything well. You don't stop really anything consistently well. You got a little lucky because you blocked a couple of field goals, which, that's not going to continue to happen. There was also a penalty there's just some things that wouldn't ordinarily happen. I give him some credit.
Yeah,
I'm just disgusted.
I think it started with a similar pattern. Like Maffa on his first 8 carries at 18 yards. So you were stopping the traditional run. Klubnik was killing you at that point. But then you just see it. It's like the life leaves them up front, and by the time the game's over, Maffa's got over $150. If he didn't, he was very close to 150. But it started where you were controlling the things that were beating you. Like we knew that 3rd and forever, Clemson has us where they want us. But still, like, you were able to take away some things, some facets of what they wanted to do, but it just deteriorates over time. And I think part of that is the continued failures of the offense, the inconsistencies of the offense. It takes the spirit away from the defense. But you also have a multi-week trend where, from a coverage standpoint, guys are broken. They don't know where to be. They're not communicating. I'm seeing the life leave. Azarie Thomas is a great barometer of how that defense is feeling, the heartbeat of the secondary. That is a guy who usually plays with a ton of fire. And he's wearing his emotions on his sleeve. You can feel the frustration in each rep with Azarie Thomas. You can see the difference between game 1 and now, the fire that he had. That's human nature. I think he's trying to battle past it. I'm not saying that he's a loafer, but you can see the material difference. When the offense does nothing, we scored 20 points once this year, right? And that was in the month of August. So we haven't scored 20 points since. You can feel that, the weight of that. But then also they're trying to break out more complex things that they don't know how to do and they don't know where to be. So there's also that too.
Well, we haven't been able to teach zone and how to execute zone consistently well the entire 5 years. That's not new.
Also, the season's halfway over.
Thank God.
They've played half of their games, and they still are looking at each other like it's preseason game.
Yeah, this is the thing that leaves people bereft of hope that I reference so frequently. It gets you angry, rightfully so. Even when you're attempting to be incredibly rational and try to divvy up the responsibilities and who's disappointing us, and it shouldn't be here. It's FSU. And I don't mean that as an entitled, hey, we're FSU, we deserve better. But given the resources that you referenced, given that it's year 5, that's what I'm talking about. We shouldn't be in this position with a staff that is in year 5, the resources invested. You're not at a distinct competitive disadvantage the way that so many schools are, throughout the country. And you watch every weekend. This is maddening because we're fans of the sport. You watch every weekend a school or a program that is at a distinct competitive disadvantage have more cohesion, show more acumen for the game, play tougher and more physical and with more speed, execute their principles, execute what they're running, their scheme, more consistently well on a play-in and play-out basis every Saturday. You look around and you think, in a vacuum, player for player, that team isn't close to where Florida State's at. However, watching this game and the way that they're playing, there's a distinct possibility they would blow FSU out if we were to play them tomorrow. And it's weird when that number exceeds, say, 35 teams. In any given year, I ought not, even if you're not operating at peak efficiency, even if you're going through a transitional period where you have, en masse, a large group of players who are very talented, say, exit for the NFL or graduate, however you want to say it. In any given year, I ought not think I can identify at least 35 this year, 50 to 60 teams that I think would have an advantage against Florida State. I shouldn't see it. I mean, you can go, I'm not going to go through all of them, but there are a lot of them, Tom.
Well, the problem is I still wouldn't identify Memphis as having an advantage over Florida State, but then they play and then they do have an advantage. So
I'm saying that they run what they run and they execute all of these teams we're talking about.
Yeah. And it's just, there are so many questions you can ask, but one of the ones that I think is most fair is, okay, do you guys, when you practice, and we know the answer to this, so it's kind of facetious, but do you guys only use the ones in practice all day long? Because if the answer is no, how is it that the 2s of last year or the 3s of 2 years ago have arrived at a place where now they are the ones? and it looks like they've never done anything we've asked them to do before. How can you get to that place? The freshmen you excuse because they weren't here last year, but there are plenty of guys that they've been waiting to hand the torch to for multiple seasons. If it wasn't for Battle's End retention last year, think about where last year's team would have been, because this group has had an extra year to prepare and be groomed to be the guys, the starters, and they still look like they've never been taught what to do. I mean, that's unbelievable. Last year's record would have been 6-6, 5-7 if you didn't retain like the Battle's End did. Like, good Lord.
You can't wrap your arms around it. It's too big. There are so many worries and so many concerns and so many failings that it's hard to wrap your arms around and discuss without, sort of diverging off to another path. You start down this one through line of problems, and then you end up going, you know what? This thing has branches. This limb has branches that allow you to take a quick hard right or a quick hard left and say, yeah, what about this over here? How come this keeps happening too? And what about this? You telling me in 5 years we can't get this worked out? Oh, yeah, and if you go over here, adjacent to this area, you've got this concern, which right now we have to put on the back burner because it's only of mild importance compared to the raging fire we have at the base of this tree. It's like you really don't know where to begin and or how to kind of tackle each and every one of these things week to week. I get that when you're a bad team, things tend to snowball and pile upon one another. Hence, we talk about the avalanche effects of both good and bad seasons typically and what that can lead to. But, man, it's bitterly disappointing for all the reasons that you just mentioned. Those fans were good on Saturday. They were good, just like they were good. Their heart was in it, and they were loud as hell against Cal. And they've been in these, they've been, for what it is this year, pretty damn receptive to trying to get up and, get dressed and get ready to go on game day on another Saturday, despite overwhelming disappointments each week.
Well, and they're not being led to slaughter. They're deciding to walk in there and knowing it's coming. Like, that's the thing that that makes me so furious because, this is where the last year thing comes in. I'm not going to relitigate that, but you had like 9 hours to enjoy being a conference champion. That's it. You had 9 hours because the show came. By the time you went to bed, it's 2 a.m. If you got home from the game or the adrenaline spike comes down, you have a short little sleep session, a little bit of breakfast, you turn on the TV, and we're not playing in the games that matter. So there's just been so little to be able to rally around in the last 10 months, basically nothing to rally around. And yet here they were, given all those reasons. They were 1-4 at the time, probably going to have a 1-win first half of the season with your rival coming to town. And you show up and you cheer your guts out, damn it, man, they deserve better. They deserve so much better. And the base of the entire strategy, the entire philosophy this year was that we were going to run the football. They're in the 130s in the country at running the football. The basis by which we built ourselves is nearly the worst in America, the worst facet of offense in America.
I'm glad you didn't put the caveat of Power 4. It has nothing to do with Power 4. They're one of the worst rushing football teams in the country. That really can never happen. It can never happen. Not here. And they are. And it's confounding. It's disgusting. It's why Mike sounds so disappointed, even in the midst of having some, reasons to be excited about the young tight ends, about the quarterback, about some positive things that took place on Saturday. He can't get there because he knows this is so wrong, that this should never happen. Go to loansfornoles.com. Check out my buddy Shannon Young. Interest rates have continued to fall. Properties are sitting on the market longer than ever. If you have been on the fence about perhaps purchasing, you can buy now. It's about as close to a buyer's market as we've seen in years. So if you'd like, go check out what I'm talking about, loansfornoles.com. Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Shannon's got a passion for what he does, in-depth knowledge, and he's also a Knoll. Good stuff. Loansfornoles.com.
Your local news now.
The Tallahassee Police Department is investigating a deadly traffic crash. The crash involved multiple vehicles and a pedestrian at the intersection of South Monroe Street and East Palmer Avenue at approximately 8:10 a.m. Thursday morning. The preliminary investigation revealed the car hit several other cars and a pedestrian before crashing into a utility pole. The driver succumbed to their injuries. The pedestrian, as well as occupants of the other involved vehicles, sustained serious injuries and were transported to a local hospital for treatment. No more information is available at this time. The Red Cross of Georgia has put out an urgent call for more volunteers to staff emergency shelters. Those who want to volunteer can visit the Red Cross website. Volunteers do not need disaster experience, but are expected to complete required training and commit to a 2-week mission. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at McLemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Daytime highs approaching 85 this afternoon under mainly sunny skies. Winds out of the northeast, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies tonight. Lows dip down to about 66. Highs level out around 85 tomorrow. Mainly clear. Mid-70s Wednesday and Thursday with scattered showers both days. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, it's 83 degrees.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. There he is. Haven't seen this guy since, what was it? Oh, shoot. U2 at the Sphere in Las Vegas, baby.
Hey, how about that, man? Wasn't that fun?
Good show. Good show. Everything about it. Nearly perfect. Nearly perfect.
I had everything I could possibly want.
I wanted one thing, couldn't find it, and I looked everywhere. No Cubans.
What do you mean?
No Cubans.
There was Cubans.
No, I didn't see any Cubans.
Dude,
no.
I'm sure there was Cubans there. I mean,
No. I walked around. There was a moment right before the show. I thought, got to find some Cubans. Nothing.
Dude, there's Cubans. There was Cubans. I'm sure there was Cubans.
In Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas.
No Cubans in Vegas.
There's Cubans in Vegas, man.
Eddie, there were no Cubans.
Chef.
The sandwich. There were no Cuban sandwiches. You're Cuban. Of course I know there were Cubans there.
Oh, the sandwich. Yeah, no, there probably wasn't many there in Vegas.
No Cubans.
No, not yet.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
What do you want to see coming out of the bye? What do you think? I think that I do think that, listen, short segment here, but I think there was something to hang your hat on there. I think that you're going to have to find a way to incorporate the quarterback running the football some. I don't know why we didn't see that. I'm still baffled how it is every team in the country has a facet of their game that allows for the quarterback and the read option to keep and go. At some point you do begin to wonder, going back to Jordan Travis's final season, obviously everything we saw from DJU, who's slow as molasses, and now what we saw on Saturday. I mean, are we just telling the quarterback he's never allowed to keep? That at no point are you allowed to keep on that and go ahead and scurry for 12? Is nobody allowed to do that in our offense?
I'm a little concerned as it pertains to the Brock plan. I know we've got many concerns, but and I'm not talking about the game plan for Saturday. It's the admission in the post game that they were going to give Luke a look at quarterback as well. It's just that the situation didn't present itself, according to Mike Norvell. So coming out of the bye week, I think it's fair to expect that you're going to see both young quarterbacks either against Duke or in the very near future. And I don't know that I like that very much because, Brock has been put in horrible situations and somehow without a running game on Saturday night, somehow without called plays to use his legs, he came out a winner, I think. That performance was good enough.
Yeah.
He owned the moment as best he could. He took command of the position as best he could. Was he
Well,
perfect? Hell no, he wasn't perfect. But did he have a pulse more than a 60-year quarterback or a 50-year quarterback did before him? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And so coming out of the bye week, I would like us to stick with Brock for a while before we start tweaking with, hey, let's see if we can get Luka series. No, enough. Give this kid a chance. That's what I would like to see moving forward, because he made enough decisions and throws, and he had enough moments where he used instincts rather than playing out of fear or holding the ball too long. He's shown growth. Give him a chance. That's what I hope they do coming out of the bye.
Well, there's no question he's shown growth, and he does play with a lot of what-for confidence, toughness. I like that kid. I do. I understand he's never looked good in practice consistently. He's had his good days and his bad days. He tends to be a yo-yo. He tends to be up and down. There'll be days where you're in awe of some of the throws. Really, honestly, there'll be moments where you're like, well, it's humming today. He gets it. It's out on time. It's anticipatory. Everything is right. And the next day you're like, what the hell was that? Spiked into the ground, awful. But there are so many factors. I think Ira brought it up over the weekend as well, and we've talked about it on the show. I think I've talked about it with him. I've talked about it with you. We've all kind of brought it up before. You know, it's hard to know what a kid thinks when at the end of last year he was put in that position, and then you go out and you transfer portal over him, and it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that he's got zero chance to win the job in fall camp. And so, you know, are you zeroed in on a day-to-day basis? Are you locked in the way you would be if you thought there was an actual chance that you could play in any of these games? I'm not trying to make excuses for him. In an ideal world, every kid would try really hard on every play of every practice and thinking about his future, knowing that that was going to sharpen his tool shed and he'd get better in doing so. But we live in the real world, and it is 100 degrees and 90% humidity, and you've got no chance to start the game and got no chance to play in the game. And as the days go by, even the guy that you brought in who was portaled in over you is not showing all the tools to succeed, isn't exactly kicking ass and taking names in the scrimmages, and yet you still can't find the football field. Then the games start, you got no chance to play, and the teams are, your team is losing, and he looks terrible, the guy in front of you, and you still can't get on the field. Yeah, I get it. Concentration may wane. You may not put those practices back to back to back to back the way we'd like to see it. I don't know. I know what I saw on Saturday night was a vast improvement over DJ. I know that people could say, well, they scored 13 points, and I could say, yep, how about you catch the ball? How about you catch the ball and we score more than 13 points? How about you not get called for a hold on a bomb? How about, just like we can go into this. That kid could have very easily, I think Pro Football Focus said, what did it say, Tom? 5 drops, 6 drops?
It had him as the highest rated offensive player at 83.5 for what that's worth, which is the best quarterback performance since Jordan Travis last year against Duke. Remember, he took that game over in the second half with his legs. Now, again, It's PFF, but we would agree that the eye test says that he had a successful night, all things considered.
Yeah, my point was that, though, the receivers betrayed him. That number would have been much better. And those receivers, I think that I counted more than 5 drops. Now, I'm a hard grader. I'm not going to lie. I'm a hard grader. Those borderline balls, you can hear old Tough Love Cameron yelling out, catch the GD ball. I said it to my kids when they were young. I didn't get on them about much, but whenever we were throwing the ball, catch the GD ball. Catch the ball. And it's partly because that's what should be ingrained, right? Like it's the classic, if you want to be a very, very good pass catcher, then you've got to have a standard of a very good pass catcher, and you need to catch the GD ball. They all can't be right here. They all can't just hit you in stride. They all can't, it's not going to be that easy. They're not all going to be laid in the breadbasket. There are going to be moments where you got to make a play, and sweet Jesus, we got some kids that really struggle to adjust to a football that's not right on them, and those that will just drop it even if it is. So I had 5, 6, maybe 7 drops. PFF, I think, had 4 or 5, whatever it had. But a couple of them were really big, man. They just circumvent any chance you have of really either starting to drive or capping off a drive with more points. You get a first down on a couple of those plays, and we're changing really the complexion of the game in a couple of moments. So That's tough to stomach, and I don't count that certainly against him. I add it to his ledger. I look at the numbers and what that's a 13-yard catch, that's a 30-yard catch, that's a 40-yard catch, that's a 17-yard gain. Check. You do that, he's well over 300 yards passing with no running game to speak of.
Right, and not using his legs in the run game too. It's just look. I'm not going to wear the Brock Glenn tinfoil hat.
No, they're not going to suddenly win the rest of their games because Brock's in.
Well, no, and maybe Luke can show you something in circumstances down the road here this season. It's just I found it very strange, and I continue to find it very strange that we went from we're never going to take DJU out of the game to the moment that DJ's not available, we're talking about Brock and Luke in like one breath. That was last week of practice. That was the post game on Saturday. I imagine that we're going to hear more of that this week. There's availabilities tomorrow and Wednesday, even though it's a bye. You know, coach is going to talk about, he's going to be asked about what he saw in the film. Like they're hand in hand. I'm not saying that Luke might not be the future of the program. It's just, is Brock ever going to get a fair shake here? And if he's not, then why don't you just play Luke then? At that point, just make a decision and go with it. But it never feels like there was an opportunity for Mike to say after the game on Saturday that, boy, he owned the moment tonight. You know what? And he's our guy going forward. And he didn't. So we're kind of in flux here.
I think people hear what they want to hear. For those of you that think I didn't bring up the drops when DJ was the quarterback, you got conspiracy theory through your minds because that's insane. I've ripped our receivers all year. I've ripped our offensive line all year, and I've made it a very, very careful point to say that this isn't all DJ's fault. I've also pointed out that he's the slowest human being to ever walk the planet. It's Jeff Cameron, Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV, hour number 2 forthcoming.
This announcement is brought to you by Fonville Lewis Messer McConaughey.
If you're driving right now, you should know there's an 80% chance that the cars all around you don't carry any bodily injury insurance. Most people don't realize it, but in Florida, all the law requires is that drivers carry property damage insurance. This means that the texting teen drifting over into your lane or the drag racer on your rear bumper have no way of compensating you or your loved ones when they cause a crash. And this should scare the hell out of you. Fortunately, there's an easy way to protect your family from this, and it's called uninsured motorist coverage. It's an absolute must, but a lot of insurance companies are convincing folks to drop it just to save a few dollars. Take it from the personal injury experts. Don't. At Fonville Lewis Messer McConaughey, we've recovered millions of dollars in uninsured motorist coverage in crashes where our clients would have otherwise received nothing. So please, call your agent right now and make sure you have uninsured motorist coverage on your policy. We hope you'll never need it, but we'll be here for you if you ever do. Fonville Lewis Messer McConaughey. Don't settle for less.
This is Shannon Young with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Investors, are you looking for a creative way to purchase your next rental property? Are you looking to get into the Airbnb space? If so, you need to know about DSCR loans. It stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. These are loans that do not require traditional income verification. As long as the proposed rent covers the mortgage payment on the subject property, that's the only income you need. If you're looking at investing and don't know if you can qualify, let's set up a plan to get your next income producing property and start putting you on a path to passive income. Give me a call at 954-369-6171. And don't forget, every fellow Knoll that we close a loan for, I will personally make a donation of $250 to the Battle's End. It's Shannon Young at 954-369-6171.
Equal housing limit, NMLS number 373033.
This is Hugh Tomlinson, president of the Tallahassee Quarterback Club. I invite you to join our historic club supporting local football since 1949. Don't miss our exciting events featuring legendary and popular football personalities. Get updates from FSU coaches, win great door prizes, and stay on top of all local football. Attend our next event featuring two-time Super Bowl winning coach Dean Pease on October 15th. Get your tickets or join our club at TallahasseeQBClub.com. That's TallahasseeQBClub.com. Get in the game. Get in the club.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Knolls take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Crescent, Tallahassee. Your Sports Flash update on Real Talk 93.3 brought to you by Fulmar's Pawn, Gun and Gold. More than you might expect with two great locations in Tallahassee.
NFL football from Sunday. The Jaguars finally get that first win of the season as Cam Little hit a 49-yard field goal with 17 seconds to go. And the Jaguars get the win over the Colts 37-34 as Tank Bigsby runs for 101 yards and 2 scores. The Jaguars are now going to travel to London for the first of back-to-back overseas games. First, they will match up against Chicago. The Miami Dolphins, they were able to just barely pick up a win against the Patriots, winning 15-10. Fullback Alec Ingold scoring the only touchdown of the day for the Dolphins, who go into a bye week. They'll next play October 20th against Indianapolis. This Sports Flash is brought to you by Fulmar's Pawn, Gun, and Gold. More than you might expect with 2 great locations in Tallahassee. I'm Matt Pauley on Real Talk 93.3.
Shop Macy's VIP sale going on now. Use your coupon or Macy's card and take an extra 30% off the latest fall trends from designers that rarely go on sale. And save 15% off skincare, makeup, fragrances, and more. Plus, shop fall specials for even more great deals on top brands at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
What's better than 1 win? 3 wins. With Straight Savings, you keep your own phone, get 1 line for only $25 a month with real unlimited data, and get rewarded with a $200 phone credit after 12 months. It's a win-win-win. Head to Walmart or visit straighttalk.com today. Switch to Straight Talk. Less dollars, more sense. Straight Savings Plan enrollment requires compatible unlocked device and new line of service. Bonus device credit requires 12 months of active service. Offer ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. Taxes and fees apply. For network management practices, see Straight.
Imagine for a moment that you are completely weightless in zero gravity. All of the weight and worry of life is melted away, and you fall into a state of profound relaxation. This is what you'll find at Tallulah CBD Mushrooms THC in Railroad Square when you try out their state-of-the-art floating pods. While you're there, shop for the best quality CBD, mushrooms, THC, and kava products available. Shop Tallulah today with 6 locations in Tallahassee and the Kava Bar Lounge in Bannerman Crossing. Online at TallulahSmokes.com.
When you need a plumber quick, how long is an acceptable time to have to wait?
Yeah, hey, it's the Millers again. Just calling you about our little plumbing problem.
2 hours?
Hey, we were hoping you can get here soon because the water is getting really bad. I mean, please hurry.
4 hours?
I know you said you were on your way, but, honey, tell the kids to drink water.
8 hours?
Don't worry about us.
At M&L Plumbing, you'll never have to wait long for quality, dependable service right when you need it. At M&L Plumbing, we listen to our customers, and our qualified technicians aim to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. So the next time you need plumbing work or repairs, think of the name M&L Plumbing, your local plumbing experts, commercial or residential. Give us a call, 850-575-9393, or visit us online at mandlplumbing.com. M&L Plumbing, for all of your plumbing needs.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
Live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're in the path of this monster. I hope you are prepping properly and getting somewhere safe as this is starting to consume, admittedly, my thoughts. So forgive me if I seem a little distracted today. This thing ain't good, and it seems to be getting worse. We'll keep it to sports, but I'm gonna admit to being heavily distracted right now, to say the least. We did spend the first hour talking about another loss for Florida State, 1-5. I should make mention, Tom, it was a fun weekend. I mean, for goodness sake. Between your Mets and the Phillies playing two incredible games, and I want that series. I know you probably want that series to end in your favor as quickly as possible. I just assume we play that series for another week to 2 weeks straight. It's been incredible to watch. And by the way, I do think the Padres are going to knock out the Dodgers. The Dodgers pitching is dreadful. They can't pitch a lick. So I'm beginning to get a feel for all of this, and I've enjoyed all of it. And then we've got games tonight as the Royals and the Yankees get back after it. But 5 of the top 11 in college football lose, none bigger than, obviously, Vanderbilt beating Alabama. And I will say that game, in a weird way, restores your faith that the major upset, you had it earlier this year with Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame. But I kind of feel like we spend much of our time annually navigating the ways in which we believe Notre Dame to be a fraud anyhow. Like, I think any given year we're like, you're not winning a damn thing. And we know it, and you know it too. You may cozy up to a 10-win season, but you're not anything, and we know that. Whereas Alabama, fresh off of beating Georgia, is annually a contender to win the whole thing. And Vanderbilt, dare I say, is not ever even in the running to finish anywhere other than dead-ass last as the redheaded stepchild of the SEC, as the team that ought not be in the SEC, save for when they're playing baseball or when the SEC needs to point to an academic institution of note. But that's about it. That's what you get for them. So to win that game, and by the way, to go take it by getting 2 first downs when you had to have it, when you knew that if you gave that ball back to Alabama, it would only be a discussion about how close you came to upsetting Alabama, because you were not going to get that stop you would have needed. You were not, and everybody in that stadium knew it. So going and taking it shows an awful lot of what for, to say the least. That was cool. Good for Vandy. Earned, right? They took it.
Well, it just shows that the SEC keeps on getting better as a conference, and I think it only strengthens and bolsters Alabama's resume for another run at the Invitational this year, where, I mean, look, that's a quality loss, and they can suffer probably 2 or 3 more and be just fine and be on the right side looking in when the Invitational picks its field of 12 just a couple months from now. In all seriousness, though, it was a development when we were at Hotel Indigo. So, hey, did you see it's 10-0? Hey, did you see it's 17-7? Oh my God, Vandy scored again. Like, it continues down a path where you realize this isn't a cute first half storyline or upset bid, because those happen all the time. And then by the end of the third quarter, the game's over. Like, oh, I'm doing the math on possessions. Like, this thing's going to come down to the wire, and it sure as hell did.
You start counting. You know what gets fascinating? Tennessee losing to Arkansas, obviously. There were some others that you kind of went, whoa, that was okay. I didn't really see that coming. I wasn't surprised that Michigan lost to Washington. Michigan's offense is about as bad as our offense, only better than our offense, which is hard to say because Michigan's offense is hard to watch. But there were some games that you kind of like, oh, okay, well, didn't really see that. One of the things that you look at is the projecting. We knew we were going to do this. It's a new season. It's a 12-team playoff. We had many discussions. There's always conjecture about how many of the SEC teams, how many of the Big Ten teams, the Power 2, if you will, that are in cahoots together now, how many of them are going to get in at the expense of somebody who has a better record from a lesser tier conference. And I've thrown in allowances for that, Tom, by even saying in some cases I completely understand that should be the case. I've been fair about this. I've said, God forbid we become one of those teams in either of those two conferences and you end up a season in which you play, Miami, Florida, say a good version of Miami, like this version of Miami, and say Florida, and then whichever the conferences you're in, say it's the SEC, you're playing LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Tennessee in a given year, and you finish 10-2 or 9-3. Yeah, I've got you in. I've got you going in over a 10-2 team that's not in the Power 5, Power 4, and not in one of those elite leagues. I probably got you in. It's a case-by-case basis. We know this. We'd still have to look at all the resumes. But you do realize with all of these upsets that have happened now, that's where we're headed. We're headed into the very difficult discussions we knew we were going to get into, which is, are you winning the beauty contest by season's end? What if Alabama loses another game and has 2 losses? Well, they did beat Georgia, so people are going to say, I forgive it. They're in. What if they have 3?
Yeah, they're in. No question.
Are they in over a second-place Big Ten school that has 2 losses?
That team's already at number 7. So, or 6.
So both teams have 3 losses. Alabama's in? Yeah.
Okay, who's the Big Ten team? Michigan?
Well, Michigan's not getting in, but they can't score against air.
Yeah.
So they're not getting in. They've got losses coming their way. I know, and I've somehow begun to curry favor with, and certainly win money on, the Fighting Fat Bielema's. Because they'll take out Michigan later this year. They will. Mark my words. Put your money on it now. They'll beat Michigan. Michigan can't score against bad teams. They're not scoring against Illinois' defense. The Fighting Illini shirt I'll be wearing that week, Tom, will come in crystal clear.
So
I don't care anything about Illinois.
Are you asking the question if Bama has 3 losses and Illinois has 2, who gets in? Because that's an easy one. That's an easy one.
Well, maybe that's not fair.
Well, we're living it. That's where we live. That's the reality.
We already lived it. I'm just but Big Ten is part of the Power 2, Tom. They're not like the bitch conference the way the ACC is.
Illinois is the bitch market that ESPN and Fox don't care about.
They are the bitch market. They are in Champaign. It's tough times if you're living in Champaign, but I'm just saying they are in the Power 2.
Yeah, they're saying.
Like, wait a minute now.
They're saying, watch yourself with Champaign and Illinois for even being considered. It's just an honor to be nominated for the Invitational, but we're putting Alabama into the Invitational over. You could have a 4-loss Alabama team sitting at 14 in the country and Illinois at 12.
A 4-loss Alabama team's not getting in.
Well, we said a 1-loss team's not getting it's
a 4-loss Alabama team is not getting in. Not with a loss to Vanderbilt, they're not getting in.
If it's a 2-loss Illinois and a 4-loss Bama, I'd be sweating bullets in Champaign. No, sir. It's not done until the committee says it's done.
You're welcome, Melissa. Hashtag bitch market is the hashtag I didn't know I needed. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. That started with my reference to the bitch conference that is the ACC. But yes, Champaign is, Tom, you are right. The bitch market that probably can't win out. It's going to be common phrasing on the JCS from here on out. We're going to have conversations, big, vital conversations about who's in, who's out, who's making millions, who's changing their school's reputation forever by being in the playoff. And I'm going to go, well, Tom, bitch market, not bitch market. Come on now. You know how this is going to go.
Yeah, I'd like to see the committee chair, the selection committee chair come on and talk to Reese Davis and say, well, we looked at key factors like, there's actually football wins above replacement. There's also yards per play, DMA. Tackles for loss, not DMA, not that at all, but tackles for loss. Because we now know better. And it was before they went to a 12-team format. So, yeah, I think Ole Miss can have 3 losses. Alabama can have 3 losses. They're getting in.
Ole Miss. Where's the good win on Ole Miss's schedule if they have 3 losses? They already lost to Kentucky. No, you got to give Alabama has a win over Georgia, Tom. That is a thing. You got to. What? Show me where the Ole Miss win is. Their best win at that if they have 3 losses.
Yeah, show me where Lane Kiffin is an elite head coach in the sport of college football. Everybody assumes it, but show me how.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, I will say he's been successful relative to Ole Miss. He's been successful.
There's no doubt. But Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin together are put on this pedestal that has he earned?
Agreed. We'll see what happens with the rest of Ole Miss's season. It's interesting. If you were to look at the top 12 now, and I'll just grab something like the AP. It's Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Georgia, Miami, Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Clemson, Iowa State, and Notre Dame. But it gets interesting because you have, like here's another Big Ten school. Indiana's 6-0. They won't be. Illinois way down there at 23 at 4-1. They could easily go 10-2. They could. By the way, Tom, Pitt is 5-0. What if they go 10-2? They're out. They're not getting in, buddy. They're not getting in.
You're saying Pitt 10-2, Bama 8-4. Bama's getting in. Bama's getting in over 10-2 Pitt.
10-2 Pitt ain't getting in. I agree with you. They're not getting in because they're not. No, they're not. Alabama's not going to have 4 losses. I don't think they'll have 4 losses, but that is they get that loss and they lose some traction on the other losses that they were going to be gimmies. Like the ones that we would forgive. Like, for example, had Alabama lost at the end of that Georgia game and not pulled it out at the end, you would have been like, oh, well, lost to Georgia is like not losing at all, Tom. Doesn't count in any way, shape, or form.
No, it's a freebie. All it is a get out of jail free card. There's no penalty. There's only incentive in the middle of that field at the end of the game. Alabama's remaining schedule is South Carolina.
Yeah, I got a Tennessee, Mizzou, LSU, Mercer, Oklahoma, Auburn. What if their 4 losses are Vanderbilt, which is still crazy to say out loud, at Tennessee, at LSU, at Oklahoma? No, they can't. Tom, they're not getting this. No, they're not.
They're in. They beat Mizzou. They beat Georgia. I mean, hell.
Lost over the weekend as well, and that is a fraudulent ranked team too, I might add.
They've got a good win over USF. They showed improvement because they beat USF by more this year than they beat them last year. They beat Wisconsin 42-10. That's another Power 2 team that Alabama beat. No, that's a good resume. That's an invitational worthy resume.
I think we've discovered that Mizzou's not any good. They beat Boston College 27-21. They did beat Alabama killer Vanderbilt 30-27 in the waning minutes. And then they got stomped 41-10 by Texas A&M. They'll beat UMass, but for Mizzou at Alabama still, no, that's another loss.
Again, let's take a look at that. Mizzou beats Vandy, okay? This speaks to the strength of the SEC. So if Mizzou can beat Vandy, a team that rose up to beat Alabama, then I'm telling you that Mizzou, as a win for the Tide, is a quality win. That is a quality win for Alabama.
Maybe for the Tide, but it doesn't work in reverse. That's not a quality win for Mizzou to beat Vandy. So, for example, here we go. Here's our first test. Mizzou goes 10-2, lost to Texas A&M 41-7. They'll lose to Alabama on the road. Their only 2 losses will be on the road to Texas A&M and Alabama. And they'll be, let's say, I'm just doing this for the hypothetical for our test here. At 10-2, they're one of a bunch of 10-2 SEC teams. And then you've got who they're pitted against out of the Big Ten and out of the Group of 5 and anywhere else, right? The ACC. Here it comes, Tom. They don't want to hear it in this fair city, this great American city. They don't want to hear it. Bitch market. Bitch market. They're done. They're out of here.
You're saying Mizzou at 10-2 is out of here?
Bitch market. Got to go.
I don't know. They'd have a home win over Auburn. They'd have beat Oklahoma at home. They would have traveled to raucous places like Mississippi State and South Carolina for wins. They would have beat Arkansas in the final week of the season. You're telling me at 10-2 with wins.
Woo Pig Suey may get him in.
They beat Woo Pig. Their last 3 games are South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Woo Pig. You tell me they don't go 3-0 down the stretch, that arrow isn't pointing up and straight into the Invitational? I don't know what is. I
am telling you that this is about to get, dicey. There's going to be a bunch of 2- and 3-loss SEC teams vying for a playoff spot. And I am also telling you that the only reason I bring any of this up is that what we saw on Saturday, depending on what prism you look at this through, is why it's good and bad that this playoff exists and it's 12 teams and all of those other things. That was a disqualifier on Saturday. That's it. You're gone. That game would have been curtains for Alabama under previous systems.
We should bring that back. Curtains is a great phrase. It's curtains for you.
Curtains for Alabama losing to sorry-ass Vanderbilt giving up 40 points would have been curtains yesteryear for Alabama. We would have just watched a true power eliminated from meaningful postseason football in days gone by, days of yore. Curtains. We would have been like, oh my God. I would have texted Tom Lane, Alabama's curtains.
Yeah, that was 2013. When the kick six happens, you're like, Alabama's out. I went out celebrating the night saying we won the national championship when Alabama was eliminated. Now, I didn't know that Auburn would know our plays, and we weren't smart enough to maybe change our signals and our plays. But in that moment, it was over. In a 4-team playoff, it's not over. In a 12-team playoff, Bama laughs. They're watching the kid return the kick six and like, I hate to lose this rivalry game, but we'll see you in Pasadena for round 2.
Curtains. Had it been played in yesteryear, I tell you. All right, Jeff25 is the promo code, and you don't want to be doing the yo-yo thing with the diets and all the Ozempic, and let's get it together. Let's good, sensible workout plan. Let's get a DEXA scan to figure out the areas that we can improve. You'll find out, a better way to work, to be smarter, not more labor intensive. You'll find out what your resting metabolic heart rate is if you go through all that DEXA-Fit provides you. It's good stuff. You can figure out how to get rid of that visceral fat, increase, longevity, and go about it the right way. This test can help reveal an awful lot about your body, including bone density. It's quick. It's easy. You'll know exactly how to reach your goals. You'll work smarter, not harder. And you'll find out your biological age, which I found out as well. It's interesting. Go to DEXA-Fit. It's here in Tallahassee, right over there off of Capitol Circle next to Bumpus, and walk in and learn more about what they provide you. But use this code, Jeff25. Save you a good bit of money. The code is Jeff25. Go in there and say, hey, I heard it on Cameron's show. I'd like to learn more about it. I'd like to learn what you do and how it could benefit me, but I want to use the promo code Jeff25.
At Paul's Termite and Pest Control, we know if you have something in your home that's not supposed to be there, you want it gone now.
Not in a couple of days, not tomorrow, but today. That's why we offer a same-day guarantee.
If you call Paul's before 12, one of our technicians will be out before 5. We guarantee it.
The health of you, your family, and your pets is why we promise to do everything possible to quickly resolve your problem.
And we do so using the safest chemicals. Notice a pest problem?
Call Paul's Termite and Pest Control before 12, and we're there before 5.
Call Paul's.
We'll get them all.
We're all spending more time at home than we ever have.
And our yards have become more than something we look at through the window. They are now a major part of our refuge.
Now that we're outside more, wouldn't it be great if we could eliminate the things that make us want to run back inside? Pests like mosquitoes and fire ants.
Paul's Pest Control can do just that, and we'll do it for a surprisingly low cost.
Our treatments are done outside. There is never a reason to enter your home.
The weather is beautiful, and now is the time to be outside.
Paul's Termite and Pest Control will help you take your yard back.
Call us for a free consultation.
This is Shannon Young with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Sellers, are you stuck between wanting to sell your home and waiting for rates to fall? Are you worried about the contingency of having to sell your home? What if you didn't have to? With a 2-1 rate buy down, you can lock in a lower interest rate for the first 2 years of your mortgage and get the home you want now, all while having a higher chance to buy that next home with the contingency of selling yours. If you wait for rates to fall, you risk more competition, sellers less likely to wait, and paying more for that next property. If you're stuck, we need to talk. Give me a call at 954-369-6171. Again, this is Shannon Young with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. That's 954-369-6171. And don't forget, for every loan we close for our fellow Noles, I will personally donate $250 to the Battle's End.
Equal housing rent. NMLS number 373031.
Hey, let me tell you about my friends at Tried and True Consulting, a Seminole-owned business that specializes in payments and business solutions. Tried and True's core expertise includes card, ACH, point of sale, mobile, e-commerce, and hosted payment solutions. Tried and True will help you reduce costs and increase your bottom line. That always sounds nice. Whether you're a retailer, restaurant, licensed professional, or service industry, Tried and True is saving you money. Tried and True's expertise extends to payroll, video menu ad boards, IT services, web design, and social media. It's time to make one call and tell the competition to take it on down the road. Call Don or Joe today at 844-464-6653. That's 844-464-6653. When you do business with Tried and True, they contribute 10% of the net revenue to the battle's end. So go Tried and True today. Call 844-464-6653.
Every journey starts with a first step, a daring step. But what they don't say about first steps is that you have to keep going, taking step after step, and eventually you take a big leap, accomplishing more than you ever thought possible. After 57 years, Tallahassee Community College is soaring even higher, and we're now officially Tallahassee State College. We invite you to take a step and visit Tallahassee State College. Learn more at tsc.fl.edu.
Science-backed, technology tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Rolling on, Big River. This is the segment where we're fortunate enough to bring in our own Ira Schoffel. Warchant. Oh, Tom wants to say something before we do that.
I do. Well, it's a little behind the curtain thing. Just to, there's that one button on your mic.
I already did it, buddy.
Just making sure. That's all.
I already got the DL or the OL or whatever the hell that's called.
Yeah. Just, in case Ira's like, can you hear me, Mad Dog?
Yeah, his doesn't need to be on the DL or the OL,
no,
right? Just fine. Hey, and that's fitting because we'll
who needs to be on the OL? Who needs the OL anyway?
Anybody else than the group that is currently sitting there. We'll talk to Ira and we'll do it right now. Brother, are you there?
I am, and I was sitting there thinking the whole problem all along is Jeff never pressed the OL button. You would have just pressed the OL button like 6 weeks ago. This would all be fine.
I have yet to figure out a way to properly describe both my disappointment, sadness, frustration, anger, etc., and really reasoning behind how it is we could have, or that Florida State fans could witness, an offensive line this ineffective and a run game this putrid. Have you? I mean, I know you've got to write about it. You and Corey had to talk about it during the wrap. I got to talk about it on the show. We talk about it on Seminole Headlines. But have any of us figured out how it's possible that this level of incompetence could have somehow infiltrated into this season and look the way that it does? I don't get it.
No, I don't get it either. I actually went back and watched a little bit of last year's Florida State Clemson game. And they didn't run the ball great in that game either. But I actually went back to watch just to see. More than anything, I want to see some of the defense and okay, was the defense as clueless as? I mean, what is it? Just about a matter of those guys were better players. But looking at the offensive line, yeah, it just felt like there was more conviction, even when they couldn't block some of the guys they couldn't block in that game. It looks like they knew what they were doing. They were much more confident in what they're doing. I heard Tom mention it in the last segment. There was a play. I think it was when Darius was at right. They put Darius Washington at right guard during that game, and they brought Early in at left tackle. And there was a play where, I think I saw the same thing Tom did, where Darius and Maurice are looking at each other after the play, like, who had who. And it's just it's hard to put your finger on. I asked Mike Norvell about it after the game. Does he even have a feeling for where to even start? Because it just looks like it's one of those situations where there's nothing to even build upon with that running game.
Yeah, and it's like you can't even make excuses. Like, I think sometimes, given the fact that they had done a good job in building this program, meaning Alex Atkins and Mike Norvell and many members of the staff had done a good job of building this program to a place where it's not just last year. I mean, you could maybe in the modern era of college football with unlimited transfers and the NIL deals put together a really good roster for a season or two. That may be going on right now at Miami with the quarterback situation and Cam Ward, right? I think we're going to live in an era moving forward where we see some radical changes from year to year, both good and bad. So let's just say I allow for that. You could not have figured that we could enter into a season where this offensive line could be so much worse with that many veteran players. That's the thing, Ira, that I don't understand. It's not like, oh, we whisked in 4 starters thanks to the transfer portal, all went to the NFL, and now they're starting over with a bunch of sophomores who weren't ready. No, that's not it at all. You're watching guys that either did succeed, have succeeded, or have played a lot of college football, or all three, take a massive step backwards. And short of saying that every one of them is hurt, I just can't, I can't wrap my mind around it. Frankly, I'm sick of trying. I want people fired. It's just insane.
Yeah, I would like to see Mike Norvell be a little more creative. That's one thing. But, and I'm not a huge proponent of the PFF Pro Football Focus grades because
right.
I looked up this morning. They have Alex Mastromano as the 62nd ranked punter in the country. So I'm not real sold on PFF, but apples to apples, every single guy in this offensive line is grading out way worse this year than they did in any other year in their careers. Maybe back to their early years, Darius and Maurice back to 4 or 5 years ago. But the last 2 or 3 years, they've all shown improvement year to year. And this season has been a huge step back for both of them and Jeremiah Byers. And even TJ Ferguson, who wasn't here, he only played, 150 or so snaps at Alabama, but he's way worse than he was a year ago. It's really strange. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. And I don't think it's injury related. And even if it was, I mean, that wouldn't excuse the bad snaps. And, I had asked Alex Atkins the week before that, with so many new pieces on this offense, you would think that offensive line would be something they could really build around, but that hasn't been the case. And he defended them in some of the things that went wrong in that game, but it's hard to defend them now because, and again, Clemson's got a solid defense, but that was not like an all-time great defensive front, and they could not do anything running the ball.
Stanford ran for 200 yards against Clemson's defense. There have been many teams throughout the course of this year, all of them, in fact, every one of them, even the ones that got blown out by Clemson, who effectively ran the ball at a clip that is alarmingly better than what Florida State did, obviously. It is unacceptable. I would be doing you and I and our listeners a disservice if I at least didn't touch on something that we did like. I think we liked. I know I did. I've made my peace with this and talked about it. Ira, Brock Glenn looks worlds better at quarterback. Now, he may not be the second coming of Charlie Ward, and he may not end up being a great quarterback. But damn it, man, that's a kid that played with confidence and conviction and toughness and brought other aspects of the game that you need at the position, especially when you have a sieve for an offensive line. I don't know what gives there. I understand that practice is practice, and he hasn't always looked good. He can't consistently put back-to-back days together. But give me your thoughts on why it took so long for us to see Brock Glenn and what you thought of his performance on Saturday. Because I watched the game again this morning, and it was better than I thought originally. I mean, if you factor in some of the drops, he's over 300 yards passing easily, which by far would have been the best game we've seen this year from a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a couple of things. One is, I do think Mike Norvell I do feel like he felt, this is just me trying to get into his head, I think he felt like he needed to figure it out with DJ because DJ ostensibly would give you a bigger upside. If he came through, if he understood this offense, if he played the way he played the last couple of years, I think he thought it would help this offense get much better later in the year. That wasn't going to happen. I think he should have pulled the plug a couple of games earlier. But, they won the Cal game, and maybe that threw things off a little bit, whatever. But the bottom line is, Brock had never – it's not like, again, we are at practice, and it's not like I've ever walked out of practice thinking, man, if they just put Brock Glenn in, everything's going to be okay. In fact, there were a couple of practices last week where I was thinking, I wonder if Brock hasn't really – kind of embrace this role of having to sit behind DJ, and has he regressed a little bit? Because in practice he was missing easy throws in practice, and so I was really concerned about him and how he was going to play. But man, he was awesome in that game. I think all things considered, I thought he was awesome in that game, and the fact that he stepped into throws with conviction, even the interception, and he's throwing with anticipation. They had several throws in that game where he's hitting guys with anticipation, which is just, we have not seen that in so long. So, man, and then, the spirit he plays with and trying to run out of trouble and not just collapsing in the pocket. Give me more Brock Glenn. But I would say this, though, because it is a small sample size, I would disagree a little bit with Tom. I heard him in the first hour. The only thing I would say is I don't know that I would shut the door on looking at Luke Kromenhoek too, because we don't know what Brock's going to be over a bigger sample size. And so I would look at trying to play both of those guys and use this last 6 games as kind of let them do it together. They're good friends. They're good teammates. I think they can do it in a positive way. And let's figure out who can help us win games and then figure it out maybe going into the next spring, because they both have tons of time left in their college careers.
I wonder sometimes when I hear Mike so careful to make sure he includes Luke and the way that he's tempered his enthusiasm, even after this game, about Brock, if that is some posturing that all coaches have to do in order to placate in this era their roster and for fear that somebody's going to leave.
If you're asking me, I definitely think that's the case. Listen, if and Brock certainly has not done enough to where you'd be like anointing him as the guy. But if you even hinted at that, and if you're Luke Kromenhoek and you say, hey, man, he's a redshirt freshman, I'm a true freshman, he's going to be starting at least 2 more years, this isn't really what I was hoping for, yeah, that would be a problem. So, yeah, man, I don't think he needs to go overboard with talking about Brock anyway. Again, Brock has to, plenty more to prove. We've seen guys, think back to, Clint Trickett, that first game he got to play against Clemson on emergency duty. And then you think, oh man, this guy just threw for 300 yards against Clemson. He's going to be great. And then the next week he turned it over a bunch of times against Wake Forest. So, we'll see how it goes. A couple of those tight window throws that he threw in that game, he gets great catches. Maybe the ball pops up and goes the other way. And now you have to respond to that. So there's a lot we need to see from Brock Glenn. And I think Mike Norvell is smart to try to keep both of them as invested as possible. And like I said, the pitch for me to them would be, hey man, we're going to need both of you guys and maybe Trevor Jackson too to try to win some of these games. I'm looking at you guys as a collective right now. I'm not trying to decide who's going to be the starter in 2025.
Yeah, I can understand that part of it in regards to 2025, because you want the competition to be fierce and you want them. Yeah. And I'm not saying not to play Luke at all. I do think you can embrace one of them as a starter for now. I certainly don't think we need to be going back to DJ. That can never happen. And I do think it's okay to kind of embrace where Brock is headed, because you want that development. It would look good upon you and Tony to see a quarterback develop here, the one that you recruited. It would look good.
It would be a nice twist.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, I do think you can do both. And I think here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I think you're right about this. Brock's going to have a terrible game. There's going to be a game where whatever the gains were from Saturday night, and I think there were some significant gains at the position, that he's going to take a step back. He's going to have something where when the book is out on him, defensive coordinators are going to begin to see tendency. This is what happens, right? People adjust. And we know this offensive line is not very good. So if you're still going to be one-dimensional and you can't run, you're already behind the 8 ball. They're going to begin to see what you do well and what you don't do well and those tendencies. And something's going to happen where that gets thrown back in your face. It doesn't mean you can't ride with him. It just means there's going to be a moment where you go, oh, well, that wasn't good. Because that's how progress works with young quarterbacks, right?
Without question. And also, and again, like the great mystery from that game, I think everybody's asking themselves the same question, is why Brock's legs weren't used more as part of the plan. And they're going to need to be, because, man, the defensive ends, the guys that were crashing to take away the running back on those mesh plays, they were all selling out to stop the running back. It's almost like Clemson knew Florida State was never going to let Brock keep the ball, because they were all over that. And so that's got to be part of it. And again, I go back to, I watched some of that game last year. Just watch some of that game last year against Clemson, and Norvell threw out some wrinkles to try to do things formationally. It looked like to kind of help out his offensive line against that defense. And I feel like we need to see more of that. I mean, he's going to have to be creative when you've got this offensive line, a rookie quarterback, and those skill players. Now, thankfully, the more talented skill players finally are getting on the field, and they're going to make mistakes too. But man, there aren't a lot of guys on that team that make that catch Amari Williams made. There aren't a lot of guys that make the plays Landon Thomas made. And if you watch Mekhi Danzy run down the sideline on those rail routes, there aren't a lot of guys that can run like him. There's nobody else that can run like him. So getting those guys on the field is certainly a big positive too.
It is strange to watch each of the last 2 years. It is coached as if the quarterback is told strictly, you cannot run the ball. It's bizarre, Ira. It's bizarre. Not one time we can't get him to keep on a read.
What's crazy is we thought, a lot of people thought Jordan didn't want to run, and then you're like, okay, maybe the theory I had was that Mike Norvell didn't want Jordan Travis to run.
I think that's fair. Because
he didn't want him to get hurt. But then when DJ didn't run, it's like, what's going on here? And then now Brock's not running, and it's very strange. Well, and the bottom line is, it's fine if you don't want your quarterback to run. Then don't call those plays anymore. Like, that should not be part of your offense, because it only slows things down. It gums things up if you're playing for an option that doesn't even exist.
Brother, I always appreciate it. We'll talk tomorrow on Seminole Headlines. Be well, sir.
Thanks, Jeff. See you, man.
Yep, take care. That's Ira Schoffel. Always appreciate his time on Mondays. We'll be together along with Corey for Seminole Headlines tomorrow. Yeah, Tom, real quick before I break, it is strange that I didn't ask you about that in the first hour. I think it's a fair observation for all of us just watching the games. You don't even have to have a football background. You can just watch other teams play. Everybody has a read option element to what they do. Just like everybody has an RPO, everybody has these elements. And every team, even ones with somewhat slow-footed quarterbacks, allow for the possibility that the quarterback's going to run just to keep people honest, and we never see it here. And I don't know where that changed, because that wasn't always the case.
I mean, they called it for Brock last year in limited work. They called design run for him against Florida in the swamp in the one drive he was out there. And they called design runs for him against Louisville in the ACC championship game. I can't recall if they did or not in Georgia. That game went wild pretty early, so maybe not. They might have just done Wildcat instead. But then there was also, the Wildcat, that was not a part of the plan. If you're trying to get the ground game off of the ground, then maybe you throw that wrinkle out there, because it's been successful for us in the past. And when push has come to shove, Mike has called that. Was there somebody on staff that left this last year that was really good at convincing Mike that the Wildcat needed to be put into the game plan? Because we're allergic to it at this point. And when you've got, so your two long runs to your tailbacks this weekend were 19 total yards, a 10 and a 9. Mm-hmm. And I think the total for the game was 16 for 29 total yards. So you had 14 for 10, like 14 other runs for 10 yards. You're not telling me that that's not enough of a data set to maybe throw out the Wildcat every once in a while, to maybe see if the math that you gain in that situation allows you to gain 4? When you could use 4 on first down, it's befuddling to me.
I saw in the chat, Bruce wrote, Mike is scared that his quarterbacks are going to get hurt. And I used to just guard that. I'd hear that from fans all the time. Well, Mike's worried that his quarterback's going to get hurt. Because I know this about football, and I know that most football coaches sort of have this mentality, because most football coaches also played football just like Mike did. And they know you can't play that way. You cannot play scared to get hurt. You can't coach that your players are scared to get hurt, right? Or that you're scared your players will get hurt. Like, you can't – this game's hard enough. You cannot handcuff yourself for fear of what might happen to a player if he gets hit, because they're going to get hit. It's football. That's the game. It's always been, as they describe rightfully, a war of attrition. Some years you're going to get really unlucky. You're going to call something where your quarterback runs and he gets hurt in week 4 and your season's a wash. Happens. But you cannot coach that way. You cannot ever go into seasons or games or practices for fear that players are going to get hurt in a collision sport. They're going to get hurt. Well, it's going to happen.
You used a term earlier in the show that you often use, but I think it's so perfect to describe our football team, and it's not a good thing for them. But you said, let's cozy up to, and I forget what it was. Was it watching a game or cozy up to something else? But it feels like that's the way we play football. That's the way we block. We cozy up to a defender. and see if we can't usher them out of the way. When we're on defense and the safety's coming downhill, he's going to cozy up to the ball carrier and see if he can get him down to the ground. There was so much more of that this weekend across the board. And you can call plays to evoke the antithesis of cozying up. You can call a quarterback run and say, we're playing for keeps tonight, guys. I mean, Stanford did, Vandy did this weekend against Alabama, any number of teams did.
Yeah. If you're playing to win, this is how it works. Listen, I'll give you a good example. Here we go. You know this, Tom, because we talked about this at the time. And I'll never forget his answer, and it was a good answer. I remember thinking, well, that's cool. That's caution to the wind. Go back to when Clemson had Deshaun Watson. Now, I know he's broken now and he can't play a lick, but he was once really good, and we all know it. And he was really, really, really good when he was at Clemson. They ran his ass all the time. And that dude was the program. I mean, he was the man. They ran his ass incessantly to the point where we were like, well, it seems a little reckless. Seems a little reckless how often they run him. And I remember asking Walt Eptoole on the show about that, and he goes, well, the offense is the offense, Jeff. They're going to run their offense. Exactly. You got to run your offense.
Yeah, they massaged everything they could out of Deshaun Watson in his days in Clemson. I mean, they were excellent at it. But on a serious note, to your point, you think Harbaugh's not afraid that Lamar Jackson gets hurt? Of course he is. But they call runs in Baltimore for the quarterback.
Because you drafted Lamar Jackson because of that skill set. In addition to being able to do the other things, what made him unique was that he could run around in ways that others couldn't. You're going to just cut your knees off and say, we're not doing this, we're never going to do it? Well, hell, I would have drafted 40 other quarterbacks before him if we were never going to run him. That's smart, and that's in the NFL, where everybody is the boogeyman, is a monster, is somebody that could break your quarterback in half. Ridiculous. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
2 people were seriously hurt after a crash between a car and school bus Friday around 7 a.m. The crash occurred when a Hyundai driven by a 21-year-old woman swerved over the center line on Northwest County Road 12 and collided head-on with a school bus traveling in the opposite direction. The 21-year-old driver and a 35-year-old passenger were seriously injured. The 55-year-old bus driver and a 6-year-old passenger suffered no injuries. As Hurricane Milton continues to strengthen, Governor Ron DeSantis expanded the state of emergency to 51 counties, including multiple in the Big Bend. The declaration now includes Taylor, Madison, Suwannee, Hamilton, Lafayette, and Levi counties. During a press conference Sunday, Governor DeSantis addressed preparation and response efforts. Crews and equipment used to help with recovery in North Carolina and Tennessee are returning back to Florida to be deployed if needed. This is Rachel and Nay with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Daytime highs approaching 85 this afternoon under mainly sunny skies. Winds out of the northeast, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies tonight. Lows dip down to about 66. Highs level out around 85 tomorrow. Mainly clear. Mid-70s Wednesday and Thursday with scattered showers both days. This report is brought to you by The Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Currently, it's 84 degrees.
Games for Less, Tallahassee's largest selection of new and used games, as well as new and used consoles like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Atari 2600, PS4, and PS5. You name it. Locally owned and operated since 1994, trade-ins are not only welcome, but Games for Less pays more for your trade-ins than the big chain stores. That's not all. Games for Less now buys and sells new and used vinyl records to boot. George loves the Beatles, by the way. Reserve all the new releases today at Games for Less, conveniently located in the Walmart Supercenter Plaza on Appalachian Parkway. There is no Bigfoot, Eddie. Would you stop with that nonsense?
There's a Bigfoot, Jeff.
I wish there were. By the way, I don't want you to point to me as the guy that takes all the fun out of the room. I wish there was the Loch Ness Monster. I wish there was the Bigfoot. I wish there was the Chupacabra. All the things.
They're all mythical except for the Bigfoot. The Sasquatch.
The Bigfoot?
The Bigfoot. There's big feet. There's lots of them.
So like different, breeds, like different kinds.
There's like, families. There's different families. And,
so if they're in the snow, you call them a Sasquatch.
Or the Yeti, right?
Yep,
and then here in Florida, that's a skunk ape. And,
I've never heard that one. By the way, why do you think it's real? We would have found them by now.
They're the hide and seek champions of the world. Nobody finds the Bigfoot.
But I think you believe in Bigfoot.
I do believe in Bigfoot.
You don't believe.
I believe in Bigfoot.
Don't tell anybody you believe in Bigfoot.
I would go look for Bigfoot, but he scares me.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
And away we go, rolling on. I do think it'll be interesting to see if he calls plays for Brock to run the football moving forward. You go back to last year and the year before that, I've never said to not run the quarterback. In the college game in particular, everybody utilizes it. You're watching it more and more and more in the NFL. If you have a guy that can move even a little bit, they do it. Part of the reason for that is I do think we're seeing freaks everywhere on defense now. It just permeates the entirety, position group by position group defensively. It started with like a guy here or there at linebacker or a guy here or there when we were talking about the kind of the hybrid players that you were beginning to see, these long, rangy defensive backs that could still run with receivers and also come up and play the run. You saw that. Defensive ends are freaks now. They're routinely destroying tackles. Even the best tackles in the league sometimes now have a hard time with the elite athleticism of what has become of that position, the defensive end position. So it seems that if you got a guy that can move even a little bit, you're going to have to run him some to keep people honest and get people playing you more honest, down in and down out. And you have that. I think that I'm not telling you that Brock Glenn is, again, a world-class athlete or an unbelievable runner, but he's a plus runner and he's a decent runner and he has that mobility. You got to do it. You got to incorporate it. And if he gets hurt, you go to Luke. Season's a wash anyhow.
Well, that's the thing that Hawaii Noel says here is something that I agree with. Brock seems to be the kind of guy who likes to be involved and feed off the emotion of the game and the running game. That strikes me to be his playing style as well. I think that's another reason you call it for him. There are some dudes who weren't willing to run. We've had quarterbacks here over the last 15 years that didn't seem to be all that willing to run when it became their time. I don't think Brock is one of those. I think he wants to be involved as any way, shape, or form he possibly can. And the other thing that you have to be able to do, though, in order to free up the quarterback's legs is to get the ball downfield. And I'm glad he took so many more downfield shots. It was a sight for sore eyes to see. And you should come away with at least 2 more catches on deep balls where guys play the part of defensive back. Like there was a play where Ashlyn Barker's feet fall out from under him and he's got a chance for an interception. And the ball goes between his hands as he's flailing to the ground. Okay, that's going to happen to a defensive back. I hate to see that. That could have been an interception. Looked like you baited Klubnik into a bad decision and a bad throw.
Plus, I really like him as a player, Ashlyn, that is.
We don't need to have our receiver downfield in a one-on-one looking like Ashlyn Barker when the ball is being thrown to him. That's the problem here. And that's the frustrating thing. But the fact that we're doing that more will make things like a read option more successful. Like there were plenty of circumstances last year, I thought, in going back and watching the game, that we wished that Jordan would have kept the ball. But a lot of times last year, the defensive ends or the read defenders were staying at home. The thing was where we got frustrated is, yeah, Jordan, he might account for you, but you're faster than him. So
you'll make him miss 9 times that.
I don't know that Brock will, but I do know that downfield throws will open up that opportunity a little bit more because we played the game on Friday of are there going to be over or under 1.5 screen calls before downfield shots. I think we got to 3 or 4 screens before there was a downfield shot this weekend.
I like that Brock wasn't hesitant. I also think Brock showed off a good arm. He has a good arm. It's not an elite arm, but it's a good arm. And he was more accurate than I think most people thought he would be going into this game. I just judging from what we hear from the practices I've been at, he has been pretty up and down in terms of accuracy. He has this really good – Brock has been very hot and cold in his time in practice. I've seen him a ton. And he's had days where you're like, wow, that's it right there. He's on it. He's accurate. He's reading it. It's quick, and it's now. But he has days where you walk out of there and go, oh, no, they got to get Luke ready. This isn't going to get it done. And that is true. There are days where he's really bad and days where he's really good. And yeah, he'll sprinkle in the whatever, performance where you're not impressed and you're also not disappointed. You're just kind of like, okay. But most of the time, coaches are looking for much greater consistency than that. They don't want that kind of yo-yo. They don't want to deal with which guy am I getting today? Am I getting the guy that's accurate? I'm getting the guy that's getting the ball out and seeing it? Or am I getting the guy that's hesitant and missing by 5 yards? But we thought because DJ was so immobile, and I brought this up 1,000 times, to say nothing of how when he misses, he's chipping the bricks. There are, plays that he just simply can't get out of the way of because our offensive line gets beat and the play's dead in the water. He can't get out of the way. So therefore, even when I threw in the caveat time and again that, look, this is not all DJ's fault, I thought by definition, you have got to find somebody else to play quarterback, regardless of what percentage you want to lay the blame at the feet of the coach or the O-line or the quarterback. You've got to find somebody who can move. This gives you that. He can get the hell out of the way and make something out of nothing, or perhaps turn what looks to be a disastrous play into 2nd and 10, live to fight another day.
The process is the most important thing in terms of the program, making sure that you're where you need to be. You're attending meetings, you're in film, you're doing all the little things, you're hitting the weight room and your treatments to make sure that you're in the position to be successful. But when all those things are done, the game matters the most. The game matters the most. And I'm wondering here because I agree again with the comment that Brock feeds off the emotion of the sport. When you're wearing a non-contact jersey, it's not the same. And I wonder if he might not just be a gamer. And the Duke game can help us find out a little bit more evidence if he's just a guy who shows up when it's live. Now it's go time. And maybe he's that guy because he looked very, very calm on Saturday.
Ian said he was about to day drink earlier. We appreciate the contribution. Noel, Kev, go knock on that door and kindly tell them in the nicest, most polite way that you can, as you said, please stop running the wide receiver screen. You don't block it, sell it, stop doing it. Now, that was in all caps, so I bet that wasn't a nice exchange, Noel, Kev, but thank you as well, as always, for the contribution. Hour number 3, just like that, it's happened fast. Coming up next.
No matter how busy life gets, your home is the place where your family and friends show you they care and celebrate with you. That's why the professionals at Barano Heating and Air Conditioning always make sure your home is comfortable. Just like those who matter to you most, Barano will always be there for you.
This is Tyler from Barano Heating and Air. Now you can schedule an appointment, purchase or renew your service agreement, or pay your bill from your mobile device. Any day, anytime, anywhere. When you turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air, online at baranoac.com.
Florida license number CAC 1816186.
Pinch a Penny Pools has the largest selection of premium hot springs hot tubs in the city. You might even call it Tallahassee's Hot Tub Hub. 12,000 square feet of hot tubs, with over 50 of them on site. Over 20,000 gallons of tub capacity to choose from. That's 4,620,000 cubic inches of hot tubs. But I digress. So why should you own a hot tub from Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you. Number 1, health benefits, of course. The healing powers of soaking in a hot bubbling pool of water go back centuries. Google it. Number 2, Pinch a Penny has hot tubs with technology called Freshwater IQ. It gives you real-time chemical readings and tells you exactly what to add to keep the water at peak perfection. With automated analysis to help you control the chlorine and pH. It's hot tubs for dummies. Sign me up. Number 3, they have the best prices, of course. Plus, you get a free accessory and no interest financing. Easy peasy. But if you don't want to take my word for it, check them out yourself. Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas. Locally owned, locally operated, and the easiest way to find relaxation at home.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
What will the Noles do to follow up an unconquered 2023? Warchant.com, the market leader in FSU football and sports coverage, is the place to find out. Join the largest FSU fan community and talk Seminole sports in Warchant's Travel Council and premium recruiting message board forums. Enjoy special access to multimedia elements like Wake Up Warchant, The Jeff Cameron Show, and Seminole Headlines, plus exclusive forums with FSU student athletes and a members-only discounted garnet and gold. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Greta, Tallahassee. Your sports action update on Real Talk 93.3 with all the latest odds from Vegas. Brought to you by Fulmar's Pawn, Gun and Gold. More than you might expect with 2 great locations in Tallahassee.
Florida Gators knocked off UCF at home 24-13 as a 1-point underdog on Saturday. This week, the Gators visiting Tennessee as a 15.5-point underdog. The total 54 at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. Arkansas with an upset went over Tennessee 19-14 as a 14-point dog on Saturday in Fayetteville. Jaguars earned their first win of the season, 37-34 at home over the Colts, as Cam Little hit a game-winning 49-yard field goal with 17 seconds to play. The Jaguars won the game but did not cover as 4-point favorites. Jacksonville meeting the Chicago Bears at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday morning as a 1.5 favorite. Bundle and save with Progressive. Progressive.com. Mike Sennett, Real Talk 93.3.
Shop Macy's VIP sale going on now. Use your coupon or Macy's card and take an extra 30% off the latest fall trends from designers that rarely go on sale. And save 15% off skincare, makeup, fragrances, and more. Plus, shop fall specials for even more great deals on top brands at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
What's better than 1 win? 3 wins. With Straight Savings, you keep your own phone, get 1 line for only $25 a month with real unlimited data, and get rewarded with a $200 phone credit after 12 months. It's a win-win-win. Head to Walmart or visit straighttalk.com today. Switch to Straight Talk. Less dollars, more sense. Straight Savings Plan enrollment requires compatible unlocked device and new line of service. Bonus device credit requires 12 months of active service. Offer ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. Taxes and fees apply. For network management practices, see Straight Talk's terms and conditions.
This is Hugh Tomlinson, president of the Tallahassee Quarterback Club. I invite you to join our historic club supporting local football since 1949. Don't miss our exciting events featuring legendary and popular football personalities. Get updates from FSU coaches, win great door prizes, and stay on top of all local football. Attend our next event featuring 2-time Super Bowl winning coach Dean Pease on October 15th. Get your tickets or join our club at TallahasseeQBClub.com. That's TallahasseeQBClub.com. Get in the game. Get in the club.
Enterprises, roofing and construction services. Construction.com. We conquer all creeks. We fix those darn leaks. Call 850-766-134. Keys Park Enterprises, roofing and construction services. Keys Park.
Construction.com. CCC 1331204.
Foreman, you look so twisted. What did you do now?
Well, Hank the alligator needed his teeth brushed, and when I bent over to give him a scrub, my back popped like an afternoon lightning storm in Florida. And now I can't even stand up.
You need to go to FinnChiro.com and schedule your new patient appointment right away at FinnChiro.com. That's FENNCHIRO.com.
I'm really busy. I don't want to leave Hank in the orange grove unattended for too long.
Finn Chiropractic will get you in right away, and they get to the cause of your problems. So go to FinnChiro.com and make your new patient appointment. There's even an online discount.
Discount? That's a good thing because my purse is a little light since I bought Hank a new gold chain.
You have to take care of yourself if you want to be able to take care of your alligator Hank. Make your appointment now. Go to FinnChiro.com.
Well, hold my pina colada. I'm going to FinnChiro.com.
Live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, one.
Partner on the radio airwaves, listening here. Terrestrial radio, still a thing, still hanging in there, still doing well, just as it is now multimedia for us as you're watching on Warchant TV and the YouTube. We appreciate you there. Appreciate those of you in the chat. Let's go. You got to be relieved, Tom. No Mets baseball tonight, buddy. No, you can chill the hell out, watch a little Monday Night Football if you want, go to bed early if you want, get drunk if you want. Whatever you want to do, you can do tonight with no fear of being put through the ringer of what is going to be, I think, each and every game, a very stressful experience between Mets Phillies.
Yeah, tonight smoke a pack of heaters, have a couple of those legal shrooms, ask Ira for a bottle of Don Julio, do some shooters during the smash. I mean, yeah, we could be like Kramer. Here's to feeling good all the time.
All the time.
It's I think it's kind of justice to be at 1-1 in the DS, in the NLDS, because Wheeler shoved for the better part of an hour and a half in game one. But it's playoff baseball is its own grind, man. I'm exhausted from that, emotionally exhausted. It's been a wonderful week, but I see you're about to suggest a spirit for me to try while holding the binder. What's in the binder? Or is that
not a binder, buddy? This is Doak Campbell Stadium seats. This is seat 27. Yeah, I got an actual seat. I got the Battles in Tequila. I'm dancing around. I'm going to take a seat and drink tequila to get through the season. You see what I did there? You can own, obviously, a piece of Doak. You already knew that with the bricks. But look, man, they're auctioning off the old hard ass. When I hold this thing, think about how many asses have sat right there. And I also think about how uncomfortable these seats were.
Wait, you need to do that again closer to the microphone. We've got a great sound effect, please.
So, how many asses were sitting right here?
I feel like that needs to be your call to attention device.
There it is. Yeah, so I wanted we're breaking out the props this segment on the show. Just breaking out the props, different types of tequila as well. We need more money, not less money. More money, not less money. I should just do this the whole rest of the show. That's where we're at right here. There it is, guys. Enjoy. It looks like it's just floating there, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And unfortunately, the spear is pointing in the direction that the program is going right now. So we need that to flip. We need that.
Well, it can't get better with less money. It's going to have to get better with more money. That's what I'm here to point out here, everybody. That's what's going to have to happen. And I know return on investment's a real thing, and I've talked about it before. That's what those 13 wins were last year, because that was a roster largely attained by the Battles in. So it's just something to note. Just something to note.
I'm just so glad we have found our replacement for the bell that you ring during basketball season, that you now can smack the hell out of the aluminum seats.
Doak seat. Yeah, Doak seat. I would so Billy weathered the two Mark Vientos home runs, deficits of 3-0 and 4-3, then withstood the Mets tying it back up in the top of the ninth to pull this one out with your favorite player, Castellanos, doing the number. He had himself a very, very good game, but I really thought the game changed on Bryce Harper's home run in the sixth inning. I think that's changed the complexion of that baseball game.
It did. One thing, just make up your minds in the booth. Make up your minds, because I don't know if you watched it with the sound on. Maybe you didn't. Okay. They can't make up their minds if they want to pitch to him, because, well, only one run or a home run here, you still have the lead, or you can't throw him a pitch. They did. Make up your damn minds, guys.
Well, Yeah, he has a special knack with that crowd. If he gets into one, it changes the feeling of that whole place.
Oh, and to be clear, just so this is, if we win this series, it's an underdog beating a more complete baseball team. They're a better baseball team, but we're just hot right now. The way he plays first base, I know eventually when his arm is fixed, they'll let him go out to play outfield. I think that's what they want to do. But I mean, Harper is just a freak show of a player.
Mm-hmm. Yu Darvish got the better of his hero a couple of times. Fernando Tatis homered twice. Jackson Merrill, Peralta, Bogarts, Higa Shelka also homered. And they, was it a record? I think a postseason record, 6 home runs for them yesterday. Tigers and Guardians get back at it 4:00 Eastern today after Cleveland went nuts in the first inning of game 1. Detroit's happy. Tariq Skubal will taking on longtime Tigers starter Matthew Boyd for the Guardians. Skubal's got to win twice. That's the whole thing for the Tigers to be able to win this series. Skubal's got to win twice, and he might. Yankees-Royals resume play at 7:30. Saturday night's back-and-forth contest in which Verdugo, of all people, played the role of hero. Cole Reagans, Tallahassee's own, taking on Carlos Rodon tonight. Obviously, we began both of the first 2 hours with not professional baseball or professional football, but rather Florida State football talk. But, hey, I can only do that for so long. I can only talk about that product for so long.
At least we have Brock's performance, though. What I was talking about, we've texted back and forth, but on the postgame show was you didn't have to put on garnet and gold colored glasses to see something from Brock. It's objectively, he provided you something. If you had a low bar, he exceeded it. If you had a reasonable bar, I think he might have met the bar for the performance because, again, we didn't run the ball at all. There was no success whatsoever running the ball. We didn't use his legs as a part of the equation. So you're in a one-dimensional fight with an offensive line that is the worst in college football in terms of pressure rate allowed. And yet, Brock makes a half dozen to 10 big-time throws. And by big-time, I mean competent throws that we had not seen from DJU. There's a sign of growth there. And there was one moment on the first touchdown drive, it's actually the play that they scored to Amari Williams, where I said, hallelujah, maybe he's starting to do it. Malik Benson was called off of the field for LaWayne McCoy, who lined up on the field. And he lined up in the slot. In fact, I think scary enough, it looked like both routes were meeting at the point where Amari caught it because LaWayne McCoy's standing right there. So don't know that he knew where to go, but it's a sign of growth because Malik turned down an opportunity to block for somebody very early in this game on a perimeter screen, didn't want to find somebody. He's like, oh, Ja'Kai got that guy. Let me go. It's too late. And Hakeem gets tackled. He also fumbles on the end around. Put in the young kids. I'd rather LaWayne McCoy make that mistake, and maybe they're starting to do that.
Got 2 weeks now, and it should be a good game against Duke, and we got plenty of time to get those young kids coached up. No faith that that'll happen, but let's hope that it does. And I agree with you that Brock, and I've said this right from the get-go, I've voiced my opinion about what happened in this game the other night. I thought Brock played exceedingly well given the circumstances. It is so. And then, I suspected when I saw it live, Mike has confirmed it since, the interception wasn't his fault either. That was on Hakeem. So, and I love Hakeem, and I'm glad we got him worked in here. I understand that he fumbled at 1.2, but he's fighting for yardage and doing what you do. And you got to get all those young guys out there. They're the ones that have some special skill. I think they're the ones, LaWayne and Elijah and Landon and Williams and Hakeem. And we got some dudes there that you got to play. And Brock, to some extent, we'll see what he is. He'll get his opportunity now. I do think that he walked off that field feeling pretty good about it. And I wish they could somehow imagine a way in which they can get the running game going somehow, something. But you're playing with one arm tied behind your back. That's the hardest part is you're playing one arm behind the back and expecting to have success when you're that one-dimensional. And I said that when DJU was quarterback. I thought he never benefited from a run game. He also was victimized by drops. It's just that he didn't have any other elements to his game that I enjoyed because they weren't even utilizing the ability to get the ball down the field, and he wasn't throwing it accurate in those moments. So you're not getting what you brought him in for. And that was the frustrating part about all that.
It's just you're turning us against guys that I don't want to turn against, and then Maurice Smith is one of those. He's a guy who played injured last year and was one of your MVPs last year, because without Maurice, Darius has to come in and play emergency center because we never cultivate backup options, and the offensive line takes a massive drop. The man played injured on the way for Florida State to go 12-0, go to Charlotte, and win the ACC championship game. This year, he's worse than he's ever been, and he's healthier. I don't understand it. This goes all the way back to game one. I know this perked up your attention when Dominic was breaking down the film, and there are a few plays where Maurice just whiffs. He decides not to block anybody. That goes all the way back to Dublin, and you have those types of mistakes where there are guys with turnstiles. They're just coming through without much resistance in terms of pass protection, and then also in run blocking. And then you've got snap issues the last couple of weeks too. How is it that a guy that we lauded for being a hero last year has gotten this much worse? Like, what the hell?
I got a theory that many of these guys are all beat to hell. That they've played so much football and dealt with so many injuries that it has directly affected. Now, obviously, I'm upset with the offensive line coach, just as I'm upset with many of the coaches, including the head coach of this particular team. We've had that discussion, but I also think that one of the ways that you could attribute the step back of a Darius or a Maurice, guys that have been here that have played at a pretty high level and succeeded, and now are really not playing in any kind of elite to plus category. If anything, they've regressed, as we've documented. I think that's the direct result, has to have been, right, of just the wear and tear of years of playing hurt and playing beat down. I don't know. That and poor coaching at this point, there's no other way to get around it. It is extremely, extremely frustrating to watch plays, in essence, be over before they ever get started, because you have turnstiles up front. By the way, in the NFL, it happens every week. Now, I went 6-4 this week, Tom. We've had back-to-backs, buddy. 3 of the 4 NFL games I picked, I won, and I won my props from Friday.
I think that moves you to a documented 27-23 on the season with the Hurricane
Here
week
we
where
go.
your picks were not released.
Here we go, buddy. And that was a good week, I promise you. I wish we could incorporate that week. No, we're doing all right. We're doing all right. I did, I was, one of the worst, it's not a bad beat. I just got beat. This shows you how crazy the NFL is. How'd the Giants beat the Seahawks with no players? They had nobody. That's a crazy win. That makes 0 sense. Disgusting. I should have easily been 7-3. But the Giants, with only Daniel Jones leading them into battle, found a way to win. But Commanders, no problem. By the way, I didn't use the Giants in my Redemption Thursday picks. That was just a wager I had on the side. There you go. Panthers, Bears. Broncos is a win. Vikings is a win. Wake won outright. I didn't get the BC game. Did cover the Clemson game. Kind of a backdoor cover. I kind of got lucky to cover that one, but I did. Obviously didn't win Tennessee, didn't win Southern Cal, but Florida wins straight up as I thought they would. House UCF. Gus Malzahn sucks. There you go. That's easy, and we move it along. 6-4, buddy.
Yeah, not bad.
And with some props. And by the way, your boy Bo Hostler right there had a chance to win at the Sanderson Farms. Couldn't get it done.
He had a heroic up and down on the 72nd hole to force a playoff. I did see that on X yesterday during one of many minutes of vomiting during the Mets and Phillies game out of fear of what was to come next. But okay, Gus Malzahn sucks. On this, we agree. Are you picking USF or Florida State on a neutral field if they played this week?
USF?
UCF.
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 Tough call.
Yeah,
Tough call.
Right.
You know why? You know why it's a tough call? UCF has been gashed in the run game. They got gashed by Colorado, who never runs on anybody, and they got gashed here, and yet we can't run. So I can't say with any confidence that we would line up and run the ball against UCF, who's had a hard time stopping the run. I don't know. So I won't say with any confidence, Tom, that we would win that game.
I think we can definitely run on TCU. That's about the only team in America I feel confident we can run on. UCF, It's stoppable force, movable object. Who knows?
I agree with that. I think it would be, I don't know. I'd be frustrated. 4:08, Detroit, Cleveland. 7:38, Kansas City, New York. I'm going to go with comfort food. I think I'm getting a flank. I think I'm getting a skirt steak, a little chimichurri. I'm going to grill those bitches up, and I'm going to watch a little Major League Baseball playoffs tonight and mosey on over to the NFL. Good game, Kansas City and New Orleans. Feels like an upset brewing. With New Orleans going to be in that game late. So I think we have a reason to be up late tonight, Tom. I think we could all use it.
I only discovered, and by that I mean tried, chimichurri 3-4 years ago for the first time.
It's so good.
It is. I don't know why I did not do that sooner. It is very, very good.
Buddy, I got to have you over when I get these skirt steaks. I get these monsters, and I get one that I marinate in the chimichurri, soak it up, massage it in, Tommy, and then I get another big skirt steak, and I do some different spices with that one, some salt and pepper and some other things, a little garlic action, a little garlic rubbed in there, Tommy. You got to rub some garlic in there.
Look, sometimes the garlic salt too. It has just a little bit different flavor than garlic plus salt. So
I'm with you on that. Hey, I like to mix and match. My kids are always challenging me to find more spices, so I do it up. And I just bought all this wonderful truffle stuff that I've got, buddy. I'm telling you, you would be impressed. It's tasty night at Cameron's household tonight, taking in baseball and football. It's Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Football. Well, it may not be living up to our expectations yet, so I'm going to try to give you something to look forward to. Hi, Chris Kraft for Kraft Nissan. This month, we asked Nissan for a lift on two of our best vehicles, and as usual, they answered, so listen to this. 2024 Titan trucks have 0% financing for 60 months, plus each and every Titan on our lot is now marked down $5,000. Plus, Titan has America's best warranty, 5 years or 100,000 miles, bumper to bumper. Or if you're interested in an SUV with $2,000 bonus cash and $1,500 loyalty cash on the Nissan Armada, you can save up to $5,000 on each and every Armada on our lot and get 3.9% financing for 60 months. Or just like last month, we can put you into a brand new Nissan Sentra starting at $420 a month, no money down. Some of the best deals of the year on some of Tallahassee's favorite vehicles. Come see us today at Kraft Nissan. Remember, if you don't see the Kraft tag on your car, you paid too much, way too much.
With bachelor's and law degrees from Florida State University, he's a small business owner in Tallahassee who's worked in courts all over Florida. A trial lawyer who works in Leon County Court every day. A husband and father tied to our community. A pro bono award winner with a commitment to giving back. And if elected with your help and your vote, a Leon County judge. Vote Robert Churchill for Leon County Judge, Seat 4.
Paid for and approved by Robert Churchill for Leon County Judge, Seat 4.
You want me to mow your grass? I will mow your grass. You want me to blow your roof? I will blow your roof. Do you want me to pull your weeds? I will pull your weeds.
Are you tired of people screaming at you on the radio and TV? Yeah, me too. That's why I use the Lawn Johns for my lawn care and landscaping.
Hey, it's Mark from the Lawn Johns. We're not here to hype, just here to help. Go to thelawnjohns.com or look for our big purple truck.
Big purple truck?
We're all going through our own fitness journey. We want to get the most out of our time in the gym or with a trainer. We want to eat the right things and do the right things to be in the best shape possible. Why not find out exactly where you're at in that journey by getting a DEXA scan today? It's the most accurate measurement of all body composition methods. It is the gold standard in what is used in clinical diagnosis, the only method that can determine bone density and give a direct measurement of visceral fat. You can do so and save a bunch of money. That's why I'm here, guys. Use Jeff25 as a discount code for 25% off any of the services at DexaFit. It's not just a DEXA scan. They have red light therapy that helps accelerate wound healing, pain relief, muscle recovery, improve circulation, skin health. They'll also give you tips on personalized nutrition with weight management, fitness optimization. These are all things that you want to do to help correct imbalances. Go see our friends at DexaFit and save right now. Use code Jeff25 Discount code Jeff25 for 25% off any services at Dexafit.
Moments like making my kids my famous meatballs mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that has spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib.
Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
KP, I agree with you in the chat. You guys were talking during the break about where Miami's at now. I don't know how much of that Miami game, Tom, you got to watch. I watched it, stayed up, watched the whole thing, saw the comeback, saw the missed targeting call, and I'm not even for targeting. That wasn't as egregious as the missed 3 offensive linemen downfield on the last touchdown pass. I mean, you got guys 5-7 yards downfield dancing in the end zone on that play. It's a problem in college football because of all the RPOs and the rules not being as strict as it is in the NFL. In the NFL, they see that and call it every time. You're not getting offensive linemen downfield like that and have it be ignored. But in the NFL, the rule is different too. You can't be, I think it's 1.5 yards or whatever it is, 3 yards in college. These guys just ignore the hell out of the rule altogether in college, and it makes playing defense really, really difficult. Miami's flirted with danger each of the last 2 weeks. Should have lost both games. Should have lost at least one of the 2 games. How about I put it that way? But they don't, and Cam Ward makes a lot of plays. He just does. I think the part that makes Florida State fans mad isn't Miami winning, although that's never ideal. They root for us to lose. We root for them to lose. That's a given. That's a part of fandom, just like we all root for Florida to lose. The point would be that when you start to look at their roster, KP was making the point that they're at a place now where Mario Cristobal isn't losing the games that his incompetence usually causes him to lose because they have enough erasers. Now, the biggest eraser is the quarterback, and he'll be gone after this year. But they have a lot of talent elsewhere. They have talent on that offensive line. They have talent on that defensive line. They have talent at wide receiver. They have talent, period. And usually Cristobal erases a good bit of that talent. The trick when you hire a Mario Cristobal is that hopefully he recruits so well for you that even his incompetence can't get in the way of bigger, stronger, faster. And it looks like that's happening. This is why we have been so mad about this downturn at FSU. You had a head start and a distinct advantage. You had leveraged it well and gotten to a place where you were the best team in the state, and it wasn't close, and you've given it all back. At a time when Florida is in the gutter, on the cusp of firing their coach, although they win any more games, he may end up sticking around. I bet Florida fans are like, easy with some of these wins. We're getting a little carried away here winning games lately against Mississippi State and UCF. I'm not sure we had written those in pen before the year began on the schedule. We thought we'd lose one of those, but they win them both, so there they sit. Florida State's now proud owners of the by far worst record in the state. It's something, Tommy. It is something.
It's just so hard to get here. Like, in a way, it's admirable. It really is. Like, think about how many things you have to do to get from the place we were not 10 months ago, 11 months ago, to where you are now. How?
It's hard.
It's impressive in its own sick way that you got this far. I mean, it's akin to you having a ride, like it's a star player or a star celebrity, and they've had problems. And, and their manager says, all we need to do is just get you home. And we got a car. And you hop in the car, and they drive you to your doorstep, and they say, all right, have a good night. You good? I'm good. Then you close the door, and instead of walking up those steps and through the door that you were driven to, you go find an alley and a crack pipe, and you start smoking the crack pipe in the alley. And
We are steady smoking it.
And they find you the next morning, and the general manager says, "How did this come to pass? We drove you home." Well, you found a way. You found your way into that alley. We were on the doorstep. It was unlocked for us. All we had to do was walk through, and somehow we wake up in the alley the next day. It's hard to do 13-0 to 1-5. But damn it, if Mike didn't find a way.
Call of the pipe was strong. The call of the pipe. We woke up middle of the night, 3 a.m. Hey, by myself, I bet I can score. Gonna go out there and get me some crack. You needed somebody to stay through the night. You needed somebody to be with you. Go back to bed, Jeff. Go back to bed, buddy. I'm on to you. I knew what you were gonna do.
So what would the equivalent of that been? Somebody sitting in a chair by the front door of the athletic center? Like, whoop, nope. Let's go back in for more film, guys. Like, what is it?
Lazy. We're not getting lazy in here. That undefeated record happened to mask real flaws in the process. But we're not about the results here. We're about the process. And that process is flawed. You just happen to get a lot of really good players to help overcome this incredible weakness in the run game. Didn't you listen to the Jeff Cameron show after the early game against Southern Miss, in which he correctly pointed out that like 87% of your runs were either for 1 yard or no gain in that contest? Now, I know you blew them out, but the process was incredibly flawed. Guys, why is it you can't run the ball on Southern Miss? Let's get back in there and figure out the hows and whys of that. So therefore, we don't have this significant downturn that's always possible when your process is flawed. Right, Mike? That's what it would have taken, Tom. The football fairy just hanging out, waiting. Woo! And then Mike would have been off to have dinner or something, and I would have gone, woo, and gone over and said, no. We got by because you have a borderline first-round wide receiver that won jump balls. And he just did it again on Sunday for the Buffalo Bills, and he will for the future because he's that kind of talented. Played basketball at Michigan State, can really jump, has strong hands, big-bodied kid. He'll bail you out of a lot of problems, even against the likes of Clemson on the road. Maybe even steal a win against a backup member of the secondary after an injury 2 plays before. But that's not you coaching it up. That's a failed process, but a good result. Let's get back in there. Woo! And I would have floated off. Then I would have floated over to Alex. And I would have gone, "Ooh, Alex, what does it say you do here? These guys all suck still. None of these guys are any good, ever. You doing anything to improve this product? Or are we just going to get lucky that our quarterback's going to bail us out, or that you have a first-round pick or the first running back taken in the draft who every now and again breaks one for 80 yards because he's a freak at that size? It's 7 runs for a gain of 7 yards, followed by the 8th run that goes 66, and masks that your process is flawed. Results good, process flawed. Woo. And then I would have gone over to Adam Fuller. How come we can't teach zone, Adam? How come we never, ever teach zone in a way that gets through to these kids and how to run it efficiently and properly? We can't. We're going to be very, very predictable. Teams are going to know, especially on third down, exactly where everybody's going to be. And I bet they cash in that ticket next year. They couldn't do it last year because Jared Verse is one of the best edge draft picks in the league this upcoming season. Braden Fisk is second on the Rams in quarterback pressures already his rookie season. Those are 2 monsters. And a whole bunch of other guys are going to be on rosters that play on this defense to mask the fact that we aren't teaching it up in a way that is sinking in. I have no doubt you have the knowledge. I just doubt that it's being conveyed in a way that is sinking in, because I have eyes and I watch this. And if not for their superior talent, the process, which is flawed, would have been exposed. Now those guys are gone. Going to get back in there. Get back in there. Woo. And then I would have gone on to the next, Tom. On to the next. Wouldn't that have been something?
Hey, John. Our kids are allowed to catch punts. You know, I'm saying they don't have to run up to the base of where the ball is going to land and then clear out like it's a grenade and say, "Look out, here it comes." You could just run underneath the ball and catch the ball.
Now let's go over to your defensive ends. If not for transfers. We're just going on and on and on, Tom.
Go over to Mastromano. Woo! Nice work.
Nice work.
Yeah.
Good job. Whoever brought Mastromano in deserves credit. The ghost doesn't have to go floating through the cracks of the door or through the door or any other door. I can just be on my merry way. Let me go revisit Mike so he's convinced. So frustrating. Jeff Cameron, Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
The Tallahassee Police Department is investigating a deadly traffic crash. The crash involved multiple vehicles and a pedestrian at the intersection of South Monroe Street and East Palmer Avenue at approximately 8:10 a.m. Thursday morning. The preliminary investigation revealed a car hit several other cars and a pedestrian before crashing into a utility pole. The driver succumbed to their injuries. The pedestrian as well as occupants of the other involved vehicles sustained serious injuries and were transported to a local hospital for treatment. No more information is available at this time. The Red Cross of Georgia has put out an urgent call for more volunteers to staff emergency shelters. Those who want to volunteer can visit the Red Cross website. Volunteers do not need disaster experience, but are expected to complete required training and commit to a 2-week mission. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
Here's your Paul's Termite and Pest Control Tallahassee weather report.
Starting off the week, warm but cooler temperatures ahead for the end of the week. Starting off with highs in the mid to upper 80s, ending with high temperatures around that 80-degree mark. Tonight, mostly clear, low of 66. Tuesday, mostly sunny, slight chance of rain late, high of 85. Slight chance of rain on Wednesday, then partly sunny, high of 78. From Real Talk 93.3, this is Danielle Kelly.
For the elimination of termites, pests, and for a greener lawn too, call Paul's. They'll get them all.
See Nice Tire and Auto Service at 4792 Bluntstown Highway today. The ASC trained technicians at Nice take the guesswork out of fixing your car. That's why wherever you see the Goodyear sign, you'll find what you want in tires and service. From preventative maintenance to a major overhaul and everything in between, you name it. Plus, Nice's services are backed by a nationwide limited warranty. Stop by Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, just west of Capitol Circle.
Maddie, did you hear Grassroots Coffee is now the official coffee of FSU's NIL collective, The Battle's End?
Yes, I've heard tons of people talking about it and the new coffee, Battle's End Blend.
Yeah, every time you buy a bag of Battle's End Blend specialty coffee, you help support FSU athletes and help our Noles be more competitive.
Every time I buy a bag?
Anytime anyone buys a bag, retail or wholesale for business. Just imagine how much impact we can have if every time FSU alumni and fans take a sip of coffee, FSU athletes benefit.
Just go to grassrootscoffee.com, select Battles and Blend and the size and grind setting you want. And if you have a coffee shop, restaurant, or even a business that has coffee in the break room, you can buy it wholesale at Grassroots Wholesale Portal, grassrootscoffeeroasters.com.
Locally owned, locally roasted, locally loved, and committed to our Noles. Grassroots Coffee.
So good.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Florida State Notre Dame on November the 9th. Tom had it up a moment ago. We will throw it up there again. Premium open bar. You'll need it. Saturday, November the 9th, Chicago to South Bend. I'm going, bringing the family. Going to have a life experience, right? Got to have those moments where you go back and say, hey, maybe it didn't turn out all right, but remember how much fun we had in Chicago, took it over to South Bend, saw that dump of a town, that legendary stadium, left there, turned around, came back, got to, hey, there it is. There's a celebration from a year ago with the Windy City Noles. They were great. That was fun. Look at that tailgate if you're watching on TV. Beers being passed about in the comforts of the bus. On our way to South Bend, there you see the tailgate. Tom, you were bundled up. I was too. That was awesome. We had a blast, and we knew what was about to happen. and still had a blast. That could be you this year with those heated tents, tailgate, fellow Noles, celebration. Spirit Express. That's what you want to do. Spirit Express. Did you get a burger last year? I don't know if I did or not.
A burger? Yeah, I had a burger. I had a couple dogs. Yeah.
I don't think I got that. Yeah.
It was
I don't remember. Yeah. SpiritExpress.com. SpiritExpress.com. Use the promo code WARCHANT. 20% off.
Well, and it was 6 years ago now. That's unbelievable. Time flies. I was in my early 30s at that point. You were in your 40s.
I was in my 40s with room to spare. Plenty of room to spare. In my 40s at that point. Hey, you don't have to remind me of how quickly the time goes. I've got a junior in high school. Every Friday night I'm out there watching him play football. And I'm like, next year's his senior year. What has happened? I remember when he was born. This is nuts. It happened like that. And I have a freshman. So there you go. It's happening all so quickly. Somebody asked, do any big-time coordinators want to coach with Mike Norvell? I think a couple things are at play here that we should talk about. First of all, Mike still has a good reputation. Now, this isn't going to help that reputation in terms of the way he's perceived as we move forward, because prior to this, the arrow was only going one way. If you talk to other coaches, if you talk to people that cover the game nationally, if you talk to really kind of the influencers of the game, you would hear nothing but good things, that Mike has done a great job. And that's because the record showed that, the results show that, his enthusiasm is infectious, his knowledge of the game. I think Mike's a very smart guy. I think Mike has, prior to this season, and some last season, we did voice our concerns even in the midst of wins. Prior to that, Mike has really found a way to engineer offense even when circumstances weren't real good. And that will do a lot for your reputation. The classic doing more with less. But then he got good players, cashed it in, and won a lot of games. We were all obviously bitterly disappointed with what happened with the snub. But then this season happened, and there are some alarming things that have got to make you wonder. And I think if you were a big-time coordinator and maybe you had a path because you're being offered a position that is greater than the one you currently have wherever it is you're at. So you're going from linebacker / defensive lines coach to being a DC. You're the next DC at Florida State. I'm just using this as an example. You'd want to know a couple things. You'd want to get to the bottom of how all of this happened and why, and that would happen in the interview process. And the other part of that is you'd want to know that Mike was going to be here for a while. Florida State has the money. Florida State has not been cheap in the way that they pay assistants. Contrary, they've been very good in terms of what that staff looks like and how it's made up and what it's paid. But you would want to know that the university has faith in Mike long-term to get this turned around and that he would still be here 3 and 4 years from now. You'd want some assurances at the very least. And because I think the money would take care of itself. I think Florida State would pay. And the other part of it is I think probably long-term you want to know, frankly, how close Florida State is to getting out of this conference. You'd want to know that, I mean, if your goal ultimately is to play for and compete and try to win national championships, you might feel like long-term that's going to take a real hit the longer you're in the ACC. We all have that fear. Hence the reason everybody is in favor of Florida State trying to get to one of the Power Two and eat from the money trough of the rich. So you'd want to know some things, but I still think Mike's reputation is good. Again, has it been damaged? How could it not? I mean, if we're being fair, I like Mike. This is coming from a place of stating many times that I like Mike. And I've been impressed with the way he got this turned around. I like what he stands for. I like the things that I've seen that are away from the camera, that are not things that we talk about on a daily basis as far as wins and losses and X's and O's. I think Mike cares a lot, cares deeply about not only succeeding, but his players. I think that's true. And one of the reasons I know it's true is that when I've asked players why they said yes to Mike when they had, in theory, better offers, like they could have gone places that were already established. Jermaine Johnson kind of led the way in those conversations, right? That's a guy that left Georgia, could have gone anywhere. Clemson really wanted him. There were, and that's kind of surprising because, we now know Dabo's thoughts on all of this. He has said that he won't take transfers, but at that time, their name was mentioned prominently along with some other big time schools. And Jermaine was like, listen, I believed in everything Mike said. It turned out to be true. He helped me immensely on and off the field. He's not the only guy to say it. You listen to the emotions that these players that have succeeded here, or even those at the beginning stages of the turnaround, what they've come back to say about their time at Florida State and their time with Mike and how much it affected them in a positive way. That doesn't suddenly go away because you're having a bad year. Now, you can do a lot to damage your reputation with recruits moving forward. You can certainly, if you're a kid who was really high on Florida State and you were looking to enter the transfer portal, you could look now at Florida State and maybe have a lesser view than you did just a year ago at this time. Obviously, results do matter. But I think for the most part, Mike's reputation is still pretty good. Hopefully this doesn't turn into some sort of, career-altering 2-10 campaign. But, as we sit here today, I still think he has a decent reputation.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like we're at 2-10, 3-9 territory. That's where we are now. Maybe the youth can help us get out of those particular lows and something a little bit better. I would agree with you that because Mike has gotten a lot of assistants promoted and hired elsewhere, poached away or given them the opportunity to make more money elsewhere, his reputation in the community still has to be fairly high. But it's just the strike. We are in the strike right now. Like, we're okay. Now, I like him because he treats his guys like adults. He allows his assistant coaches to speak for themselves, to cultivate whatever voice that they want to shape to the media so that they can become more attractive to future universities and future football programs for a coordinator job or a head coaching job themselves. Like, he treats them like adults. But what does that come with? If there's failure, then he's also got to treat them like adults who had an opportunity to do better, and they didn't. And so I think the coaching community is watching very, very closely, not just for Mike's sake about himself and his own resume, but what is his program going to look like next year? What is he going to take from this year in terms of a lesson, and how is he going to apply that to the future? Because if this job comes open for an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, and maybe there's play calling attached to it on the offensive side, who knows? I think people would still jump at the opportunity as long as they sit down with the administration and the administration says that Mike is going to be the guy for at least another couple of years. Like, I as a candidate myself, if I've got power 2 chops, and I can recruit,
you want to know
that I'm not changing laundry out of necessity 12 months from now, because that's not a good look for me. Then I look like I'm a wanderer rather than somebody who is attached to consistency, success, and continuity.
Yeah, and the reason you're going to want that is the fairly obvious one, that they're 1-5. And for as much as you would love to remain positive about this program and what Mike Norvell is as a coach or a man or whatever else, this is a results-based business. There is no place on earth that pays anybody $10+ million a year and doesn't expect big-time achievement. And when that doesn't happen, it is going to be called out. It is going to be criticized. It is going to be talked about. It is going to be bantied about. It is going to lead to speculation. That is what happens within the industry. It's what happens with those that cover college football, certainly on this show or anywhere else. That's how it works. You get lauded and praised for your successes, just as you get criticized for your failures. And there is no way to avoid that, especially when you're in the midst of a disastrous season. Now, you apply that to a coach who's been offered a job in this scenario that was asked about in the chat. He's especially going to want some assurances. He's especially going to want to know what the temperature in the room is with the university and those decision makers making the call on Mike Norvell's future. Because how could he not wonder, after looking at what we're seeing this year, how could he not be curious about the long-term future of the sitting head coach who's residing over in year 5, a 1-5 program? He'd have to be slightly curious about how this was going to go. There's no getting around that. And just as most people, when they are in a position to get a job offer to a place like when it was rolling at Alabama with Nick Saban, hey, I feel pretty good. Nick's not going anywhere. Vibe seems to be pretty positive around that program. There are many other examples, of course, but that's how it works. This is a brutal, brutal industry. It's a win or lose industry. It is smoke or get smoked. You win or you don't. That's it. That's all. That's how it works.
The thing I'd say is a healthy athletic department in this scenario has a meeting of the minds in a moment like this. This is a natural place for it. You're halfway done in the season. You have a bye week. Mike Norvell has earned one more win than Michael Alford has as the head coach of this athletic department, of this football program. But you have to sit down with the head of the athletic department to get your messaging straight for the next 6 games, to get your messaging straight for the next 2 months as to how you're going to approach the future, as to how many replacements you are looking to bring in. This is the time. Yes, the coaching staff needs to go out and do what recruiting that they can with a 1-5 product. But the head man has to talk to the head of the athletic department and whoever else is in that room. Time was for many years it would be the president of the university for Florida State that always wanted to be in the room for these types of discussions. And maybe in this case, because it's on fire, McCullough wants to be in that room in this circumstance. But you have to have a meeting where there is a clear line that, hey, if we're going to go and headhunt for 3 new coaches or 5 new coaches or whatever it is, here are the guys that I want. Who are the guys that you want? Okay. Now, what can we do in that process, clandestine as it is at times, to make sure that assurances are made, and what kind of money pool are we working with to go get those things done? That's where a healthy athletic department looks at a crisis and says, let's make sure we're all on the same page top to bottom. And I would hope that that's something that is happening this week.
I worry we may have gotten some good news over the weekend with the kid that decommitted from Mississippi State after visiting here in Tallahassee. Who knows? Does that mean maybe that kid is interested in Florida State more than he was prior to that visit? I hope so. Mississippi State obviously has their own struggles to deal with, and I would like to think Florida State is a more appealing option. But what I do worry about in trying to climb out of this is, yes, you're right. You talk about resources. You talk about the health of a program and athletic department and what's going to take place moving forward. How do you survive in recruiting right now? And that is the biggest question, is that you're going to need players, and you're going to need at least to get to a place where we're not so heavily dependent on the portal, right? This is the frustration that you feel about the lack of development with the offensive line. This is the frustration you feel with, like, how is it we're this far in and Florida State doesn't have a viable center that's been developed? We bring up these examples where that's the case, and there's no getting around that. I mean, the evidence is the evidence, and you can see it in lots of spots where you say, if they don't hit on a guy in the portal, or there aren't any real, plus players in the portal at that position, what are they going to fall back on? Because they don't have a track record of recruiting at an elite level in the high school ranks. You have to have enough of a bedrock of good players that you're winning on the trail in the prep world, that it could be, you could find supplements where you fail, or a kid gets hurt, or you have attrition in the portal, but it can't be the basis for what you're doing. And I get how it had to happen to begin with. They had to go that route. I've never argued with that. And I certainly haven't complained about it. I like that he was innovative and attacked it and embraced it and found ways to get this turned around quickly. That's really the area where you'd give him the most amount of praise, because he was at the forefront of that. He did a great job with that. But trying to find that balance, which is now exceedingly difficult given where this is this year, it's almost as if you're going to have to go right back to getting on the hamster wheel. And you better not miss, because you can't miss 2 years in a row. We've already got people angry about return on investment.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't fix it. You could comment on it, but you can't fix it. That the portal and the era of NIL gave you the runway necessary, and then some, to cultivate new options through high school development. For when those guys are gone, after the retention bonuses, so to speak, are gone from the Battle's End last year. You bring back, Jared Verse was never supposed to come back. Nobody in a million years thought after 2022 that he was going to come back, but he did. And that speaks to 2 things. 1, that NIL exists, and 2, that there was a culture worth coming back to. There was a locker room worth playing for another year. Right. That's all true. And what the portal and what NIL did for this program was it gave them a long runway to be able to develop high school players to be ready when the time comes. And the portal players and the retained players are off to the NFL. Now it's yours. And the moment that happened, you realized you needed another mile of runway, which is just insane because you had a long time to be able to do it. So yeah, you're going to have to go back into the portal. This is where I think that the evaluation thing is the most important thing that happens to Florida State between now and next year. Is whoever they're evaluating, you have to be realistic on two fronts. One, can we get something out of them now? And two, is everybody on them or not? Because if everybody's on them, we're not going to get them unless we have copious amounts of money that comes from somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, and the whole portal thing has changed. Listen, I do think, there's no way around it now. You have much greater competition. We've also kind of vetted and figured out what kinds of players you can find in the portal anymore at certain positions, right? That's changing too. It's forever changing. That space, we're learning about it as we go. Florida State was really, as I said before, at the forefront and taking advantage and doing a good job of those evals. And really, you were lucky to have a very, very good collective come in at that time and ensure that between the evaluations and the possibilities through NIL that you were able to collect a really good crop of players in which you turned it around and won 13 games and did a good job. Won 10 games the year before that. But this disaster does require, obviously, a reassessment of a lot of things. That's going to happen when you lose. C. Black says, does Norvell need to give up play calling for 25? I've gotten increasingly frustrated with Mike. I don't normally bitch about play calling because I think that's the easiest place to go for fans to complain this play, that play. That's usually results-based and not process-based. It's usually not a matter of, was this the right call against the right look? It's usually just, it was incomplete and now I'm mad. It was a bad play. So I tend not to do that, but I have been disappointed with Mike, the play caller, this year too. I have, and I've been very surprised by that. And again, because there seems to have been, I brought this up last week, a lack of imagination given some of the problems you have up front. Now that we have a decent quarterback back under center, can we please get an offensive line that can run block? Worst offensive line I've seen in FSU in 30 years of watching. Rich, that's saying something. We've had some bad offensive line play here for some time across different personnel, meaning different staff. And I agree with you. That is, it certainly starts there. I've talked a lot about you can't at FSU have the second to worst rush offense in the entire country. Not the Power Four, the entire country. Can't happen. And that's exactly where Florida State's at now. Enjoy a night of no Mets baseball tonight. Tommy, good job as always. Talk to you later, brother. And to all of you, thanks for tuning in and hanging in there. We appreciate it very, very much. Have a good night. Enjoy Monday Night Football. Enjoy the baseball. Should be fun. Exhale. We'll be back with you tomorrow on Seminole Headlines and the JCS bonus hour, and then the JCS the rest of this week as well. Take care. Peace.